What if Plankton actually stole the Krabby Patty formula? In this video, we'll be diving deep for over 3 hours to explore how the entire story of SpongeBob and Bikini Bottom would change if Plankton finally succeeded in his plan. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. The first episode we'll be breaking down is Plankton, the moment that truly set his rivalry with Mr. Krabs in motion. In the original episode, Plankton tries to steal the Krabby Patty formula by first hiding inside a patty, then later by using a mind control device to take over SpongeBob's brain. His plan ultimately fails when SpongeBob gives an emotional speech about how delicious the patty is, which makes Plankton so hungry that he jumps out of SpongeBob's head to grab it. He accidentally lands in his own analyzer machine instead, which reveals he's 1% evil and 99% hot gas. SpongeBob walks out with the patty, and Plankton is left defeated. But what if Plankton had kept his composure during that critical moment? What if his college education and years of planning actually paid off? The entire first season of SpongeBob and everything that follows would transform into something completely different. This alternative timeline splits off at the exact moment when SpongeBob stands in the Chum Bucket laboratory, holding that Krabby Patty over the analyzer funnel. The scene plays out identically up until SpongeBob starts his emotional goodbye to the patty. SpongeBob still tears up and describes the patty's tasty, juicy, scrumptious, warm, steamy goodness. He still mentions the 100% all-secret patty with undersea cheese, pickles, lettuce, tomato, and onion steaming between 2 fluffy seaweed sea buns. Inside SpongeBob's brain, Plankton still starts drooling. The hunger still builds. His mouth still waters at the description. But here's where everything changes. Now, in this timeline, Plankton remembers why he went to college. He remembers the years of failed attempts. He remembers every time Mr. Krabs has humiliated him. Instead of letting his appetite control him, he grips the control levers tighter. He forces SpongeBob's fingers to release the patty. The Krabby Patty drops into the analyzer funnel. The machine zaps it. The computer screen beeps and processes the information. Karen's voice reads out the complete formula with every single ingredient and measurement. Plankton has it. After all these years of trying, he finally has the Krabby Patty secret formula. Plankton immediately releases control of SpongeBob's brain and removes the mind control device. SpongeBob collapses on the laboratory floor, confused and exhausted from the mental battle. Plankton doesn't care. He's already at his computer, programming Karen to remember every detail of the formula. He backs it up multiple times. He writes it down on paper. He memorizes it. This is his life's work finally complete. SpongeBob eventually stumbles out of the Chum Bucket empty-handed, his pants still missing from when he crashed through his house that morning. The next morning, Bikini Bottom wakes up to something it has never seen before. The Chum Bucket has a line of customers outside. Not a long line yet, but a line nonetheless. Plankton has spent all night cooking. He's made dozens of patties using the exact formula. When the first customers bite into a Chum Bucket patty, their eyes widen. It tastes exactly like a Krabby Patty. Completely identical. The word spreads quickly in a small town like Bikini Bottom. Across the street at the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs notices his morning rush is smaller than usual. He looks out the window and sees customers entering the Chum Bucket. His eyes bulge out of his head. He runs outside and sees the line. He sees fish walking out with satisfied expressions, holding Chum Bucket bags. Mr. Krabs immediately knows what happened. There's only one explanation. Plankton finally got the formula. SpongeBob arrives at work feeling terrible. He tells Mr. Krabs everything about the previous night. He explains how Plankton controlled his brain. He describes how he tried to fight it but couldn't. He admits he brought a Krabby Patty to the Chum Bucket. Mr. Krabs doesn't yell. He doesn't get angry. He just stares out the window at the Chum Bucket with a defeated look that SpongeBob has never seen before. Mr. Krabs quietly says that after all these years of protecting the formula, it's finally gone. His voice cracks slightly when he tells SpongeBob to go home for the day. Over the next few weeks, the Chum Bucket's success grows exponentially. Plankton keeps his prices slightly lower than the Krusty Krab. Since the food tastes identical and costs less, customers naturally choose the Chum Bucket. Plankton hires his first employee because he can't keep up with demand. Then he hires a second, then a third. The Chum Bucket expands its seating area. Meanwhile, the Krusty Krab becomes quieter each day. Squidward actually enjoys the peace at first, but then Mr. Krabs starts cutting his hours. There aren't enough customers to justify keeping him there all day. SpongeBob tries everything to win customers back. He adds extra love to each patty. He decorates them more carefully. He offers to work for free, but none of it matters. The formula is the formula. Plankton has it, and he's using it. The one advantage Mr. Krabs had for decades has vanished overnight. The Krusty Krab's customer count drops to just a handful of loyal regulars per day. Mr. Krabs stops paying for repairs. The restaurant starts looking worn down. The paint chips. The tables get wobbly. The whole building takes on a sad, abandoned feeling, even though it's still technically open. The character dynamics shift dramatically in this timeline. SpongeBob carries massive guilt. He blames himself completely for Mr. Krabs losing his business. Every time he sees the empty Krusty Krab, he remembers that night when Plankton controlled him. He remembers dropping that patty into the analyzer. He knows it's his fault, even though Plankton forced him. SpongeBob stops sleeping well. Gary notices his owner coming home exhausted and sad every night. The cheerful, optimistic Sponge that everyone knows becomes quieter and more withdrawn. Mr. Krabs transforms from a successful business owner into someone desperately trying to stay afloat. He can't pay SpongeBob's full wages anymore. He considers selling the Krusty Krab building, but can't bring himself to do it. This restaurant represents his entire adult life. He built it from nothing. He created the Krabby Patty. Watching Plankton profit from his creation while he struggles to pay bills breaks something inside him. The money-loving crab, who usually obsesses over every penny, now sits in his office, staring at old photos from the restaurant's glory days. Plankton experiences the biggest transformation. He goes from a failure that nobody takes seriously to a legitimate business success. He finally proves that his college education means something. He proves he's not just 1% evil and 99% hot gas like his own analyzer once told him. He's a businessman now. He's successful now. But something unexpected happens. Once the initial thrill wears off, Plankton realizes that beating Mr. Krabs doesn't feel as satisfying as he imagined. He spent so many years obsessing over stealing the formula that he never considered what comes after. The rivalry gave his life purpose. Now that he's won, he feels strangely empty. Squidward benefits from this timeline in some ways. With fewer customers at the Krusty Krab, he has more time to practice his clarinet. He has more time to work on his art. He doesn't have to deal with SpongeBob's annoying cheerfulness as much because SpongeBob is too depressed to be annoying. But Squidward also worries about losing his job completely. He needs the income. He can't survive without his paycheck, small as it is. So he's trapped in this weird situation where work is more peaceful but also more precarious. Patrick doesn't fully understand what's happening. He knows SpongeBob seems sad. He knows they don't go jellyfishing as much anymore. He notices the Krusty Krab looks different when he passes by. But Patrick's simple mind doesn't grasp the business implications. He just wants his best friend to be happy again. He tries to cheer SpongeBob up with their usual activities, but SpongeBob can't enjoy anything knowing he betrayed Mr. Krabs. The broader Bikini Bottom community initially loves having two restaurants serving Krabby Patties. Competition means better prices. But as time passes and the Krusty Krab deteriorates, some longtime customers start feeling nostalgic. They remember when Mr. Krabs first opened. They remember the early days. A few loyal customers like Mrs. Puff continue eating at the Krusty Krab specifically to support Mr. Krabs, even though they could get the same food cheaper elsewhere. But sentiment only goes so far when wallets are involved. 6 months into this new timeline, Mr. Krabs makes a devastating decision. He can't afford to keep the Krusty Krab open anymore. The building costs money to maintain. Paying even one employee is too expensive when there are barely any customers. On a rainy Tuesday morning, Mr. Krabs calls SpongeBob into his office and tells him the restaurant is closing permanently at the end of the week. SpongeBob breaks down crying. His dream job, the place he's wanted to work since he was a little sponge, is shutting down because of something he did. The final day of the Krusty Krab is somber. The few regular customers come by to say goodbye. Squidward cleans out his register for the last time. SpongeBob cooks his last Krabby Patty in that kitchen. Mr. Krabs locks the doors and puts up a closed permanently sign. Across the street, Plankton watches from the chum bucket window. He's won. He's driven his rival out of business. But seeing Mr. Krabs walk away from that building with slumped shoulders doesn't bring the joy Plankton expected. He realizes he's been so focused on beating Mr. Krabs that he never considered how hollow victory would feel. SpongeBob's life falls apart after the Krusty Krab closes. His entire identity centered around being a fry cook. Without that job, he doesn't know who he is. He tries finding work elsewhere, but nobody needs a fry cook with his specific skills. His expertise is making Krabby Patties, which doesn't transfer well to other food service jobs. He spends his days at home with Gary, wondering what went wrong. The optimistic Sponge, who once annoyed everyone with his enthusiasm, becomes a shell of his former self. Mr. Krabs tries various business ventures, but nothing works. He attempts a different restaurant concept, but can't compete with the Chum Bucket's established success. He tries selling nautical antiques, but doesn't have the capital to maintain inventory. Eventually, he takes a job working for someone else for the first time in decades. The proud business owner becomes just another employee. He thinks about the formula constantly. He wonders if he should have written it down differently or hidden it better. He replays that night when Plankton controlled SpongeBob over and over in his mind. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a Bikini Bottom, where Plankton runs the most successful restaurant in town. The Chum Bucket expands into a chain. Plankton opens locations in other underwater cities. He becomes wealthy beyond his previous dreams. Karen gets regular upgrades. They move into a bigger laboratory. Plankton hires dozens of employees. He becomes exactly what he always wanted to be, a successful restaurateur who proved everyone wrong. But this success comes with unexpected consequences. Plankton misses having a rival. He misses the challenge. Running a successful restaurant turns out to be boring compared to scheming and plotting. The day-to-day management, The inventory orders, the employee schedules, BM it's all mundane. Plankton accomplished his life's goal, but that goal's achievement left him without purpose. He sometimes looks at the abandoned Krusty Krab building across the street and feels something he never expected to feel toward Mr. Krabs: nostalgia. This alternative timeline fundamentally changes SpongeBob SquarePants from a show about an optimistic fry cook living his dream into a show about loss, guilt, and the hollow nature of revenge. SpongeBob never recovers from his role in destroying Mr. Krabs' business. Mr. Krabs never rebuilds what he lost. Plankton gets everything he wanted but discovers that winning doesn't equal happiness. The bright, colorful world of Bikini Bottom gains a layer of melancholy it never had in the original timeline. All because in one critical moment, Plankton chose logic over hunger and successfully stole the Krabby Patty's secret formula. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on, we have F.U.N. Season 1, Episode 10B. In the original episode, Plankton tries to steal a Krabby Patty but gives it back after SpongeBob talks too much about magic. SpongeBob feels bad for Plankton being called a loser and decides to befriend him. They spend the day together, singing the F.U.N. song and doing fun activities. Karen reminds Plankton about his mission to steal the secret formula. At the movie theater, Mr. Krabs exposes Plankton by revealing he has a Krabby Patty hidden in his pocket. Plankton pretends he truly values their friendship, then reveals it was all a trick. He runs toward the movie screen with the patty but crashes into the concrete wall behind it. The patty is saved, Plankton fails, and SpongeBob learns a hard lesson about trusting his enemy. But what if Plankton had been smarter about his friendship scheme? What if he had actually taken the time to earn SpongeBob's complete trust before making his move? This alternative timeline explores what happens when manipulation works perfectly and genuine friendship becomes the ultimate weapon for stealing the Krabby Patty formula. The day starts exactly the same. Plankton steals a Krabby Patty using his propeller device. SpongeBob chases him through Bikini Bottom. They end up at the magic shop where SpongeBob talks about believing in yourself and magic making dreams come true. Plankton gets so annoyed by the rambling that he gives back the stupid patty. The crowd calls Plankton a loser. Squidward asks how it feels to be the most hated thing in Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob gets declared the honorary town rookie of the day with a big donut ribbon. While everyone celebrates, SpongeBob thinks to himself that if Plankton had just one friend, he wouldn't be such a meanie. SpongeBob knocks on the chum bucket door that same evening. Plankton opens expecting a customer. SpongeBob invites him to come out and play. Karen immediately recognizes this as the perfect opportunity for revenge. She tells Plankton to befriend SpongeBob, and when the timing is right, take the Krabby Patty. But here's where this timeline splits from the original. Instead of rushing the plan, Plankton listens to Karen's full strategy. She explains that SpongeBob needs to trust him completely. One day of fun won't be enough. Plankton needs to play the long game. Plankton agrees to go jellyfishing with SpongeBob. They go to jellyfish fields together. SpongeBob teaches him about catching jellyfish and throwing them back. Plankton briefly fantasizes about ruling Bikini Bottom with jellyfish, but SpongeBob interrupts to explain that fun isn't about winning. SpongeBob teaches him the F.U.N. song. Plankton sings his dark version about fire burning down the whole town, uranium bombs, and no survivors. SpongeBob corrects him and helps him dance while singing the real lyrics. They sing together through the flowers, with ukuleles, nose-picking, sharing gum, and sand-licking. They become best buddies for the day. That night, Plankton returns to the chum bucket excited about all the fun activities. Karen shows him the Krabby Patty on her screen to remind him of the mission, but in this timeline, Plankton stays focused. He tells Karen he knows exactly what he's doing. He needs SpongeBob to trust him so completely that he gets invited inside the Krusty Krab kitchen. One day of friendship isn't enough for that level of access. He needs weeks, maybe months. Karen agrees this makes sense. Plankton looks at himself wearing square pants like SpongeBob's. He decides to keep wearing them. It's all part of the disguise. The next day, SpongeBob invites Plankton to hang out again. They go bubble blowing, they build sand castles, they race snails. Every day after SpongeBob finishes his shift at the Krusty Krab, he spends time with Plankton. Mr. Krabs notices this friendship developing and warns SpongeBob that Plankton is scheming. SpongeBob insists that Plankton has changed. He sees the good in his friend. Mr. Krabs decides to test Plankton just like in the original episode. Mr. Krabs invites both of them to the Krusty Krab one afternoon. He places a Krabby Patty on the table in front of Plankton. He pushes it closer. He uses a fan to blow the smell toward him. Plankton stays strong. He says he's saving his appetite for popcorn at the movies later. SpongeBob turns off the fan and tells Mr. Krabs they've had enough of his little tests. They walk away together. Mr. Krabs briefly wonders if maybe Plankton really has changed, then realizes the plate was just cardboard. He knows Plankton is still scheming. Weeks pass. SpongeBob and Plankton do everything together. They go to the Reef Cinema multiple times. They attend Squidward's terrible clarinet recitals. They play at Goo Lagoon. They visit Sandy's Treat 'em. Patrick joins them sometimes, though he doesn't really understand why SpongeBob is friends with the small green guy. The entire Bikini Bottom community starts accepting that Plankton has genuinely changed. Even Squidward stops making mean comments. Only Mr. Krabs remains suspicious, but he can't prove anything because Plankton hasn't tried to steal anything in over a month. After 2 months of genuine-seeming friendship, SpongeBob finally invites Plankton into the Krusty Krab kitchen. He shows Plankton around his workspace. He demonstrates his spatula techniques. He explains his fry cook methods. Plankton acts interested and supportive. He compliments SpongeBob's skills. He asks questions that seem innocent but are actually gathering information. SpongeBob, trusting his friend completely, answers everything honestly. Mr. Krabs watches nervously from his office but can't intervene without proof of wrongdoing. One evening, SpongeBob invites Plankton over to his pineapple house. They're having a sleepover. Gary doesn't trust Plankton and keeps hissing at him, but SpongeBob tells Gary to be nice. They watch television together, they eat kelp chips, they tell stories. Right before bed, SpongeBob mentions something casually. He says that working at the Krusty Krab is the best job ever, and he's so lucky Mr. Krabs trusts him with knowing the secret formula. Plankton's antennae perk up. He asks what SpongeBob means. SpongeBob explains that Mr. Krabs showed him the formula years ago because he needed someone to help make patties if he was ever sick. It's written down in Mr. Krabs' office inside a safe behind the portrait. Plankton acts only mildly interested. He changes the subject to something else, but inside, his mind races. He has the information he needs. The formula exists in physical form. It's in Mr. Krabs' office, behind the portrait, inside a safe. SpongeBob doesn't know the combination, but Plankton has technology that can crack any safe. He just needs to get inside that office alone. The next week, Plankton suggests they play a game. He calls it the Friendship Challenge. The idea is that SpongeBob will do one thing that Plankton wants, and Plankton will do one thing that SpongeBob wants. SpongeBob thinks this sounds fun. Plankton says his request is that SpongeBob sneaks him into the Krusty Krab after closing time to see where SpongeBob works at night. SpongeBob finds this request a bit odd, but agrees because friends do things for each other. That night, SpongeBob lets Plankton into the Krusty Krab after Mr. Krabs leaves. They walk through the dark restaurant. SpongeBob shows Plankton the empty dining area. He shows him the kitchen. Then Plankton asks to see Mr. Krabs' office because he's curious about how a successful businessman organizes his workspace. SpongeBob hesitates. That room is usually off limits. But Plankton reminds him about the Friendship Challenge. SpongeBob gave his word. SpongeBob unlocks the office door. Inside Mr. Krabs' office, Plankton looks around with fake casual interest. He comments on the desk, he looks at the papers, then he walks up to the portrait on the wall. He asks SpongeBob who that is in the painting. SpongeBob explains it's Mr. Krabs' grandfather. Plankton stares at the portrait for a moment, memorizing its exact position. He then suggests they leave before Mr. Krabs finds out they were here. SpongeBob agrees. They leave the office, they leave the restaurant, SpongeBob locks up. He feels slightly guilty about bringing Plankton into Mr. Krabs' office, but pushes that feeling away. Friends trust each other. 2 nights later, Plankton returns to the Krusty Krab alone. He picks the lock using a small device. He sneaks inside. He goes straight to Mr. Krabs' office. He picks that lock too. He walks up to the portrait and moves it aside. Behind it sits a safe, exactly like SpongeBob mentioned. Plankton takes out his safe-cracking device from his lab. He attaches it to the safe. The device runs through possible combinations. After 3 minutes, it clicks. The safe opens. Inside the safe sits a bottle. The label reads, "Secret Formula." Plankton's eye widens. After all these years of complicated schemes, the answer was this simple: befriend the naive sponge. Get information, break in, steal the bottle. He reaches in and grabs it. He holds it up to examine it in the moonlight coming through the window. The bottle contains a piece of paper with writing on it. This is the complete Krabby Patty formula with exact measurements and instructions. Plankton has finally won. He carefully closes the safe. He replaces the portrait. He leaves the office and locks it behind him. He exits the Krusty Krab and locks that door too. He makes sure everything looks normal so Mr. Krabs won't immediately notice the formula is gone. Plankton walks across the street back to the chum bucket, the formula bottle in his tiny hands. Karen congratulates him. The long game worked perfectly. SpongeBob's trust was the key. The next morning, Mr. Krabs arrives at the Krusty Krab for another day of business. Something feels wrong, but he can't identify what. Everything looks normal. The dining area is clean, the kitchen is ready. His office door is locked like he left it. He opens his safe to check on the formula like he does every morning. His heart stops. The bottle is gone. He searches frantically through the safe. He checks under papers. He looks behind things. The formula has vanished. Mr. Krabs knows immediately who took it. There's only one creature in Bikini Bottom who would steal this: Plankton. Mr. Krabs runs across the street to the chum bucket. He bursts through the door. Plankton stands at his grill making patties. A line of customers waits outside. Mr. Krabs smells the patties cooking. They smell exactly like Krabby Patties. Plankton looks up and smiles. He tells Mr. Krabs that he's busy with paying customers and doesn't have time to chat. Mr. Krabs demands his formula back. Plankton asks what formula he's talking about. Mr. Krabs accuses him of stealing it. Plankton points out that Mr. Krabs has no proof. The safe wasn't damaged. The office wasn't broken into. Nothing looks disturbed. How could Plankton have stolen anything? SpongeBob arrives at the Krusty Krab for his morning shift. Mr. Krabs tells him the formula was stolen. SpongeBob gasps. He asks who could have done such a thing. Mr. Krabs says it was obviously Plankton. SpongeBob refuses to believe it. He says Plankton has changed. He's his friend. He wouldn't do something like that. Mr. Krabs explains that the entire friendship was fake. It was all a scheme to get close to SpongeBob and learn information about the formula's location. SpongeBob's face falls. He asks if Mr. Krabs is sure. Mr. Krabs shows him the empty safe. The formula is gone. The chum bucket is serving identical patties. The math is simple. SpongeBob walks slowly across the street to the chum bucket. He walks past the line of customers. He enters the restaurant. He sees Plankton cooking at the grill. He sees the identical patties. He smells them. They're perfect Krabby Patties. SpongeBob asks Plankton if it's true. Did he only pretend to be friends to steal the formula? Plankton stops cooking. He looks at SpongeBob. For a moment, something flickers in his eye. Maybe regret, maybe guilt, but then it disappears. Plankton tells SpongeBob that being evil is too much fun. He laughs the same way he did in the movie theater. SpongeBob's eyes fill with tears. He says they sang the F-U-N song together. They did everything together for 2 whole months. Plankton says it was all fake. Every moment, every laugh, every activity. It was all part of the plan to steal the formula. SpongeBob asks if any of it was real. Did Plankton feel actual friendship at any point? Plankton hesitates before answering. He admits that maybe for a moment, during the first day when they sang together, he felt something. But that feeling wasn't worth more than finally beating Mr. Krabs. Success matters more than friendship. The character dynamics destroy themselves in this timeline. SpongeBob's defining trait is his optimism and his ability to see good in everyone. This betrayal breaks something fundamental inside him. He trusted Plankton completely. He defended him against Mr. Krabs' warnings. He brought him into restricted areas. He shared personal information. All of it was used against him. SpongeBob learns that sometimes people really are evil and cannot be saved with kindness. This lesson crushes his spirit. Mr. Krabs loses more than his formula. He loses his business, just like in the previous timeline when Plankton controlled SpongeBob's brain. But this time feels worse, because it happened through manipulation of SpongeBob's best quality. Mr. Krabs warned SpongeBob repeatedly. He set up tests. He stayed suspicious. None of it mattered because SpongeBob's trust overruled all the warning signs. Mr. Krabs feels angry at Plankton, but he also feels disappointed in SpongeBob for being so naive. Plankton achieves his ultimate goal but loses something he didn't know he valued. During those 2 months of fake friendship, he actually experienced what having a real friend feels like. The activities were genuinely fun. The F-U-N song made him feel tingly inside in a good way. SpongeBob's unconditional acceptance felt nice, but Plankton chose victory over those feelings. He chose business success over potential friendship. Karen congratulates him on staying focused on the mission. She says she's proud that he didn't go native. Plankton accepts the praise but feels emptier than he expected. The Bikini Bottom community reacts with shock. Everyone saw Plankton and SpongeBob together for 2 months. They witnessed what seemed like genuine friendship. They started believing that even someone as evil as Plankton could change. Learning it was all fake makes them feel foolish. Squidward tells SpongeBob that he tried to warn him. Patrick doesn't fully understand what happened, but knows his best friend is hurt. Sandy says she suspected something, but didn't want to ruin SpongeBob's happiness. The entire town learns that trust has limits. 3 months after stealing the formula, the Chum Bucket becomes the most successful restaurant in Bikini Bottom. Plankton expands the building. He hires a full staff. He opens additional locations in other underwater cities. The Krusty Krab closes permanently. Mr. Krabs takes a job working for someone else. SpongeBob loses his dream job. He eventually finds work at the Weenie Hut, but it's not the same. He never recovers his full optimism. Every time he tries to see good in someone, he remembers Plankton's betrayal. Plankton sometimes sees SpongeBob around Bikini Bottom. Their eyes meet briefly before SpongeBob looks away. Plankton wants to say something, maybe apologize, maybe explain that the friendship felt real sometimes even though it was fake. But he never does. He won. He got everything he wanted. Admitting regret would mean admitting the victory wasn't perfect, so Plankton stays silent and continues running his successful business empire. The alternative outcome of this timeline is darker than the brain control scenario. When Plankton forced SpongeBob physically, it was clear villainy. SpongeBob could be a victim without blame. But in this timeline, SpongeBob's own kindness and trust enabled the theft. He gave Plankton the information. He brought him into the office. He ignored all warnings. This makes the betrayal cut deeper. SpongeBob questions his own judgment. He wonders if being kind and trusting is actually stupid. His worldview fundamentally changes. The FUN song becomes painful to hear. Whenever SpongeBob hears those notes, he remembers singing with Plankton in Jellyfish Fields. He remembers believing that friendship could change anyone. The memory hurts. SpongeBob stops singing the song. He stops trying to befriend people easily. He builds walls around his heart. The infinitely optimistic Sponge becomes cautious and guarded. Bikini Bottom loses its most positive force because Plankton's manipulation worked too perfectly. This timeline proves that sometimes the cruelest victories are the ones that exploit people's best qualities. Plankton didn't win through superior technology or complex schemes. He won by pretending to be SpongeBob's friend and weaponizing that trust. The formula was always stealable if he just took the time to earn complete access through fake friendship. All his previous complicated plans failed because they tried to bypass SpongeBob. The winning strategy was to go through SpongeBob by becoming someone he would protect and trust. Years later, Plankton's restaurant empire spans the entire ocean. He's wealthy beyond measure. He's respected as a businessman. He's proven everyone wrong who called him a loser. But late at night in his expanded laboratory, Plankton sometimes thinks about that first day in Jellyfish Fields. He remembers the tingly feeling he got from genuine fun. He remembers SpongeBob teaching him the real meaning of the FUN song. He remembers, just for a moment, feeling like he had an actual friend. Then, he pushes those thoughts away and returns to counting his money, because being evil is too much fun, and friendship was never worth more than winning. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on to Walking Small Season 1, Episode 19B. In the original episode, Plankton wants to build the Chum Bucket Mega Bucket on Goo Lagoon Beach. He's too small to clear the beach himself, so he manipulates SpongeBob by teaching him to be assertive. SpongeBob misunderstands the lessons repeatedly, but accidentally drives everyone off the beach through aggressive behavior. When Plankton reveals his land development plan, SpongeBob realizes he was used. SpongeBob becomes aggressively nice instead, bringing everyone back to the beach with kindness. The construction barriers get trampled, people return, and Plankton's Mega Bucket plan completely fails. He crawls away defeated, unable to handle so much kindness. But what if SpongeBob never realized he was being manipulated? What if his natural kindness didn't kick in at the critical moment? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton's manipulation works perfectly and the Mega Bucket actually gets built on Goo Lagoon Beach. The day starts identically. Plankton arrives at Goo Lagoon in his small bulldozer wearing a hard hat. He tears out the Goo Lagoon sign and throws it away. He puts down construction barriers. He takes out his megaphone and announces that everyone is trespassing on the future site of the Chum Bucket Mega Bucket. They have 17 minutes to leave, but his voice is too small. Nobody hears him. Tina asks if anyone hears something. Nat shakes his head no. Frank the lifeguard checks his own megaphone, thinking the noise comes from there. Billy grabs Plankton's bulldozer thinking it's a toy tractor. His mother Evelyn tells him to put it down because it has germs. Plankton realizes he's too small and needs someone big to clear the beach. SpongeBob's giant foot almost steps on him. Plankton identifies SpongeBob as the perfect tool for his plan. SpongeBob arrives at the beach singing his Stepping on the Beach song. He tries to buy ice cream, but Timmy cuts in front of him. Then Carlos the eel slithers through and takes the last cone. Lou tells SpongeBob they're out of ice cream. SpongeBob hears crying and finds Plankton sitting on a bench with 2 strawberry ice cream cones. Plankton pretends he's crying because he has 2 cones but only needs 1. SpongeBob offers to eat the extra cone. Plankton uses this moment to introduce the concept of assertiveness training. He tells SpongeBob that he can have anything he wants with a little training. SpongeBob agrees to learn. The assertiveness lessons begin. Charlie sits on SpongeBob. Plankton tells him to be assertive and make Charlie get off. SpongeBob politely asks Charlie to move. Plankton yells that he needs to be assertive, not insertive when SpongeBob makes beeping sounds with his fingers in Charlie's pockets. SpongeBob sees Carlos the eel with his stolen ice cream. Plankton jumps inside SpongeBob's mouth and speaks for him, threatening the eel with a swirling torrent of pain and misery. The eel cries and throws the ice cream at SpongeBob before running away. Plankton convinces SpongeBob that those were tears of joy. SpongeBob uses a metal detector on the beach. Scooter asks to borrow it. SpongeBob starts to hand it over, but Plankton stops him. Through a series of misunderstandings, SpongeBob accidentally helps Scooter find buried treasure instead of being aggressive. Plankton gets frustrated and threatens to quit. He tells SpongeBob that he'll never get what he wants and people will always step all over him. SpongeBob begs for another chance. Plankton points to all the beach hogs soaking up SpongeBob's sun rays and challenges him to get a tan. SpongeBob runs over waving a blanket up and down, building up sand that makes everyone run away. Fred yells about his leg. After everyone leaves, SpongeBob gets a tan using a funnel as a sun lamp. Plankton celebrates that his plan is working. SpongeBob then stretches his tongue to eat everybody's hot dogs from the stand. He uses his tooth like a boomerang to cut all the kite strings. When Larry asks him to throw back a volleyball, SpongeBob pops it instead and trumpets like an elephant. Everyone leaves the beach in fear. SpongeBob celebrates being a regular alpha male until he notices Plankton is missing. Plankton is driving a crane. The Mega Bucket sign comes out from the ground. SpongeBob gasps and realizes Plankton used him for land development. He says that wasn't nice. Plankton explains that nice guys finish last and only aggressive people conquer the world. But here's where this timeline diverges. In the original, SpongeBob asks about aggressively nice people and reverses everything. In this alternative timeline, SpongeBob doesn't get that idea. He's too shocked by the betrayal to think clearly. SpongeBob just stands there processing what happened. Plankton used him. His assertiveness training was fake. The whole thing was a scheme to clear the beach for construction. SpongeBob feels hurt but also confused. Part of him thinks maybe Plankton is right. Maybe nice guys do finish last. Maybe being aggressive is how the world works. He watches Plankton operate the crane, bringing in construction equipment. Workers arrive to begin building the Mega Bucket. SpongeBob slowly walks away from the beach feeling empty and used. Over the next several weeks, construction continues at Goo Lagoon. Plankton's workers build the massive Chum Bucket Mega Bucket facility. It's 3 stories tall with multiple dining areas, a gift shop, an arcade, and a play area for children. The building blocks the beautiful ocean view. The construction noise drives away any remaining beachgoers. Goo Lagoon transforms from a peaceful public beach into a commercial property. The community loses its favorite gathering spot. Families who used to spend weekends there have nowhere to go. The lifeguards lose their jobs. The hot dog vendor has to find work elsewhere. SpongeBob stops going to Goo Lagoon entirely. The place reminds him of his betrayal. He can't look at the Mega Bucket without remembering how Plankton manipulated him into hurting all those people. He remembers making Fred hurt his leg. He remembers popping Larry's volleyball. He remembers cutting everyone's kite strings and eating their hot dogs. All those aggressive actions that drove people away were his fault. Plankton gave the instructions, but SpongeBob did the actual harm. This guilt weighs on him constantly. The Chum Bucket Mega Bucket opens for business on a Saturday morning. Plankton expects huge crowds since it's the only restaurant and entertainment facility directly on a beach location, but hardly anyone shows up. The few customers who come are tourists who don't know about Plankton's reputation or what happened to the public beach. The locals boycott the place completely. They remember that Plankton stole their beach through manipulation. They remember SpongeBob driving them away. Nobody wants to support a business built on deception and land theft. Plankton doesn't understand why his brilliant plan isn't working. He has the location, he has the facility, he has the menu. But customers aren't coming. He still doesn't have the Krabby Patty formula, so his food tastes the same as regular Chum Bucket food, which nobody likes. The Mega Bucket loses money every day. The building costs were enormous. The loan payments are massive. Plankton realizes too late that owning beachfront property means nothing if nobody wants to visit. The character dynamics shift dramatically in this timeline. SpongeBob loses his innocence about how the world works. He always believed that kindness and optimism could solve any problem. He thought everyone could be friends. He trusted Plankton's assertiveness training because he wanted to help his friends succeed. Learning that this trust was weaponized against him changes how SpongeBob sees people. He becomes more cautious. He questions people's motives. He worries about being manipulated again. His natural friendliness decreases because he's afraid of being used. Patrick notices his best friend acting different. SpongeBob doesn't laugh as easily. He doesn't suggest fun activities as often. When Patrick asks what's wrong, SpongeBob explains what happened with Plankton and the beach. Patrick doesn't fully understand the complexity, but he knows Plankton hurt SpongeBob. Patrick suggests they go to Goo Lagoon like old times. SpongeBob refuses. He can't face that beach anymore. Patrick feels helpless watching his friend suffer. Sandy confronts Plankton about what he did. She tells him that manipulating SpongeBob was low even for him. She points out that the Mega Bucket is failing anyway, so the scheme accomplished nothing except hurting people. Plankton dismisses her concerns. He says business is business and sentiment doesn't matter. Sandy warns him that karma exists underwater just like on land. Plankton laughs at the idea of karma. Squidward surprisingly feels bad for SpongeBob. Usually Squidward enjoys when SpongeBob feels down because it means less annoying cheerfulness bothering him at work. But this situation is different. Squidward saw SpongeBob genuinely trying to improve himself through assertiveness training. Squidward watched the manipulation happen. Even Squidward, who dislikes most people, thinks Plankton crossed a line. Squidward awkwardly tries to comfort SpongeBob at work one day, which makes both of them uncomfortable since they're not used to that dynamic. Mr. Krabs hears about the Mega Bucket situation from customers. He learns that Plankton manipulated SpongeBob to steal the public beach. Mr. Krabs sees an opportunity. He organizes a community meeting about reclaiming Goo Lagoon as public property. He argues that Plankton obtained the land through fraudulent means by using manipulation tactics to clear people out. Mr. Krabs doesn't care about the beach itself, but he sees a chance to hurt Plankton's business before it becomes competition. The Bikini Bottom City Council investigates. They interview witnesses who were at the beach that day. Multiple people testify about SpongeBob's aggressive behavior that drove them away. They describe the construction barriers Plankton put up before anyone left. They present evidence that Plankton announced his Mega Bucket plan before the beach cleared. The council determines that Plankton's actions constitute illegal seizure of public property. They order the Mega Bucket demolished and the beach restored to public use. Plankton fights the decision in court. He argues that he has property rights and made substantial financial investment. His lawyer claims that SpongeBob's actions were independent choices, not manipulation. The judge doesn't accept this argument. The evidence clearly shows Plankton deliberately taught SpongeBob aggressive behaviors with the specific goal of clearing the beach. The judge rules that manipulating someone to commit aggressive acts that drive people from public property is illegal. The Mega Bucket must be destroyed. Demolition crews arrive 3 months after the Mega Bucket opened. Plankton watches his dream building get torn down piece by piece. All that planning, all that manipulation, all that construction cost. Everything destroyed. He's left with massive debt from the building loan and no business to show for it. Karen tells him she warned that the plan had too many variables. Plankton angrily says that SpongeBob should have stayed manipulated. If he just kept being aggressive, the beach would have stayed clear, and the business would have worked. Plankton blames SpongeBob for his failure, even though SpongeBob did exactly what Plankton trained him to do. The beach gets restored to its original condition. The Goo Lagoon sign goes back up. The lifeguard tower is rebuilt. The hot dog stand returns. Sand gets smoothed out. Within a few weeks, Goo Lagoon looks like the Mega Bucket never existed. Families come back, people sunbathe again, everything returns to normal except for the people who remember what happened. SpongeBob eventually visits the restored beach 6 months after the incident. He walks slowly across the sand. He sees Larry playing volleyball. He sees Scooter surfing. He sees kids building sandcastles. Everything looks peaceful and happy. But SpongeBob can't shake the memory of driving all these people away. He sees Fred walking by and remembers him yelling about his leg. The guilt remains even though the beach is fixed. Larry notices SpongeBob standing alone looking sad. He walks over and invites SpongeBob to play volleyball. SpongeBob hesitates. He remembers popping the volleyball last time. Larry says that was months ago and everyone knows Plankton was manipulating him. The community doesn't blame SpongeBob, they blame Plankton. Larry says SpongeBob was a victim too. SpongeBob's eyes well up with tears. He didn't realize people forgave him. He thought everyone hated him for what he did. The community's forgiveness helps SpongeBob begin healing. People tell him they understand he was tricked. They saw how Plankton used assertiveness training as a weapon. They recognize that SpongeBob's natural kindness made him vulnerable to manipulation. Nobody holds the aggressive actions against him anymore. This acceptance slowly rebuilds SpongeBob's confidence. He starts smiling again. He begins participating in beach activities. His optimism gradually returns, though it's tempered now with awareness about manipulation. Plankton's business empire dreams die with the Mega Bucket. He's back in the regular chum bucket across from the Krusty Krab with no customers and massive debt. Karen runs constant calculations showing they're bankrupt. Plankton sits in his restaurant realizing that conquering the world through aggressive tactics doesn't work when you're 1% evil and 99% hot gas. His assertiveness lessons worked on SpongeBob but created community backlash that destroyed everything. The plan was too clever for its own good. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a Bikini Bottom that successfully protects its public spaces from manipulation schemes. The community learns that land development through deception is illegal. They learn to recognize manipulation tactics. They learn to support victims instead of blaming them. SpongeBob learns that assertiveness training isn't inherently bad, but it can be weaponized by people with bad intentions. He learns to question why someone is teaching him something. He learns that his natural kindness is actually a strength, not a weakness to be trained away. Years later, SpongeBob still thinks about that day at Goo Lagoon sometimes. He remembers being told that nice guys finish last and only aggressive people conquer the world. But watching Plankton's aggressive plan fail completely proved that saying wrong. Nice guys don't finish last. Manipulative guys who pretend to help others but actually serve themselves finish last. SpongeBob's aggressively nice response in the original timeline would have worked. But even in this timeline where he didn't think of that solution, the community's values protected the beach anyway. Kindness won in the end, just through different methods. Plankton succeeded temporarily in his manipulation, but the success was hollow and short-lived, ultimately teaching everyone that aggressive tactics built on lies cannot create lasting victory. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on to the Algae's Always Greener, Season 3, Episode 1A. In the original episode, Plankton fails another Krabby Patty theft attempt. He crashes through the Krusty Krab wall and Mr. Krabs flicks him away. Plankton goes home defeated. He complains to Karen about eating holographic meatloaf while Mr. Krabs eats real food. He wishes he could switch lives with Mr. Krabs just to know what it's like. Karen reminds him about the switch lives just to know what it's like Mogrifier machine he built last Tuesday. Plankton uses it to swap lives with Mr. Krabs. He wakes up in Mr. Krabs' office as Mr. Plankton, running the Krusty Krab. He finally has access to Krabby Patties, but his new life becomes a nightmare. Alternate universe. SpongeBob constantly needs performance reviews and has emotional breakdowns. Pearl wants allowance money. Squidward makes disgusting patties. Worst of all, alternate universe Krabs keeps breaking in naked to steal patties. Krabs threatens to come back tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day forever. Plankton can't handle the stress. He screams that it's not worth it, presses the machine button, and switches back to his normal life. He happily eats holographic meatloaf, grateful to be himself again. But what if Plankton didn't give up? What if he actually handled the pressure and stayed in Mr. Krabs' life permanently? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton refuses to switch back and decides to tough it out as the owner of the Krusty Krab. The morning starts exactly the same. Old Man Walker walks into a pole and apologizes to it. Plankton hides in a ketchup bottle trying to steal a Krabby Patty. Old Man Walker squeezes the bottle but misses the patty. Plankton launches out screaming that they'll be reunited and it'll feel so good. He crashes through the wall. Mr. Krabs picks him up and calls him a dirty little man. He flicks Plankton back across the street to the chum bucket. Plankton crashes through his own wall and lands on the ground. Karen greets him with typical failure comments. Plankton gets angry and tells his computer wife to make him some grub. Holographic meatloaf appears. He sarcastically says goody and pounds the table, knocking the meatloaf off. He complains that Mr. Krabs gets real food and has a daughter as big as a whale. He wishes he could switch lives just to know what it's like. Karen mentions the switch lives just to know what it's like Mogrifier machine from last Tuesday. Plankton sits down in front of the machine. He scrolls through pictures until he finds a crab in the shape of Mr. Krabs. He buckles up and presses the button. He screams as he goes through a hole in space and time. He stops briefly for a drink of soda, then screams again. The scene fades to black and cuts to Plankton drooling on Mr. Krabs' desk. He wakes up confused. He sees a nameplate reading Mr. Plankton. He picks up a picture of Pearl. He looks out the window and sees people eating Krabby Patties. He realizes the life switcher worked. The Krusty Krab is his. He's dressed in corporate casual clothing like Mr. Krabs used to wear. Alternate universe SpongeBob delivers 2 deluxe Krabby Patties. Mr. Plankton's eye turns into a Krabby Patty shape from excitement. He tells SpongeBob he needs to take 1 patty back to his office for bun inspection. Alternate universe, SpongeBob refuses because that patty is for the customer, Mr. Plankton almost threatens to boil the customer in hot oil before catching himself. SpongeBob gives him 2 different patties he made specifically in case Mr. Plankton wanted to do bun inspection today. Mr. Plankton runs back to his office celebrating. He has the patties, the wealth, and the notoriety. He finally won. Alternate universe, SpongeBob appears in his office, asking for his weekly performance review. Mr. Plankton has never reviewed anything except foreign exercise videos his cousin sent him. He tells SpongeBob he's doing fine and to leave. SpongeBob insists there must be something he needs to improve. Mr. Plankton randomly says the sauce, claiming SpongeBob uses too much sauce. This triggers a complete breakdown. SpongeBob's eyes squint, his nose droops, his mouth shrinks. He starts stuttering and jerking his arms forward and back. His entire body swells up huge and red. He explodes in a massive nuclear-style explosion that destroys half the restaurant. This is where the timeline splits. In the original episode, this chaos continues until Plankton gives up. But in this alternative version, Plankton makes a different choice. He realizes that running the Krusty Krab means dealing with these problems. He can't just quit whenever things get hard. Quitting means going back to the chum bucket with no customers and holographic food. Quitting means being a failure forever. Plankton decides to actually learn how to manage his new life properly. After SpongeBob's explosion, Mr. Plankton doesn't panic. He takes a deep breath. He thinks about his college education. He went to college. He's smart. He can figure this out. When SpongeBob reforms from the explosion looking guilty, Mr. Plankton sits him down. He explains that the sauce comment was just a minor suggestion. He tells SpongeBob that he's actually an excellent fry cook. He gives him genuine praise about his speed, his technique, and his dedication. SpongeBob's face lights up. He thanks Mr. Plankton for the performance review and goes back to work happy. Crisis solved. Mr. Plankton realizes that alternate universe SpongeBob just needs regular positive feedback. He's not actually difficult to manage. He's just extremely sensitive and needs validation. Mr. Plankton sets up a schedule. Every Tuesday, he gives SpongeBob a 5-minute performance review where he lists 3 things SpongeBob does well and maybe one tiny thing to improve. SpongeBob thrives under this structure. He stops having breakdowns. He works efficiently. The kitchen runs smoothly. When alternate universe Squidward complains about SpongeBob, Mr. Plankton actually listens. He realizes Squidward is right. Squidward is a cashier, not a fry cook. Swapping their positions makes no sense. Mr. Plankton puts SpongeBob back in the kitchen where he belongs. He puts Squidward back at the register. Both employees become more productive in their correct roles. The restaurant runs better. Orders come out faster. Customers are happier. Pearl runs in asking for an allowance advance. Mr. Plankton remembers that Mr. Krabs only gave her $1, which made her cry giant tears. Mr. Plankton does the math. He looks at the restaurant's daily profits. He can afford to give Pearl a reasonable allowance. He gives her $20. Pearl is thrilled. She hugs him and calls him the best daddy. She runs off happy to go shopping. Mr. Plankton realizes that investing in family relationships prevents bigger problems. One small tear from Pearl could flood the restaurant. $20 is worth avoiding that disaster. The real test comes when the siren goes off. Alternate universe SpongeBob yells red alert and tells everyone to take cover. Customers scream and hide. Mr. Plankton asks what's happening. They explain that Krabs is back, the most hated creature in Bikini Bottom. His goal in life is to steal a Krabby Patty. Alternate universe Krabs swings in on a rope holding a patty. He's completely naked. SpongeBob shoots clothing at him from a cannon. A bra catches Krabs. He throws the patty back and says Mr. Plankton wins. But then Krabs delivers his threat. He says he'll come back tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. He keeps repeating this endlessly. He walks out backwards. He calls on the phone and continues saying, and the next day. This is the moment that broke Plankton in the original timeline. The idea of dealing with this forever made him give up. But in this alternative version, Mr. Plankton stays calm. He hangs up the phone. He calls a staff meeting. Mr. Plankton explains to his employees that they need a better security system. Alternate universe Krabs breaks in too easily. He tasks SpongeBob with designing a patty protection protocol. SpongeBob creates a system where all patties go directly from grill to customer, with no stops in between. This eliminates the window where Krabs can steal them. Mr. Plankton also installs better locks on the doors. He sets up motion sensors. He hires Frank the lifeguard as part-time security. The security improvements work. When alternate universe Krabs tries to break in the next day, the motion sensors catch him immediately. Frank tackles him and throws him out. Krabs tries again the following day. Same result. After 2 weeks of failed attempts, Krabs stops coming as frequently. He still tries occasionally, but the break-ins become manageable. Mr. Plankton handles it the same way the original Mr. Krabs did for years. It's just part of doing business. You have a rival who tries to steal your product. You defend against it. You move on. 6 months pass in this new timeline. Mr. Plankton has become genuinely good at running the Krusty Krab. He learned to manage SpongeBob's emotions. He figured out Squidward's complaints are sometimes valid. He gives Pearl appropriate allowances to keep her happy. He implemented security measures that actually work. The restaurant is more successful than ever. Profits are up because of operational improvements. Mr. Plankton finally achieved everything he wanted. He has the Krabby Patty formula. He has the successful restaurant. He has the wealth and notoriety. The character dynamics completely transform in this timeline. SpongeBob works for someone who actually gives him performance reviews. He's happier and more confident. His breakdowns stop because he gets regular positive feedback. He becomes an even better fry cook than before. His relationship with his boss improves because Mr. Plankton learned to communicate properly instead of just yelling at him. Squidward benefits massively. He's back at the register where he belongs. He doesn't have to cook. Mr. Plankton actually listens to his complaints sometimes. Squidward still hates his job, but it's slightly more tolerable. He gets home earlier because the restaurant runs more efficiently. He has more time for his clarinet and art. Pearl grows up with a father figure who actually gives her money when she needs it. She doesn't develop the massive issues she had with the original Mr. Krabs' cheapness. She becomes more responsible with money because Mr. Plankton teaches her budgeting along with giving allowances. Their father-daughter relationship becomes healthier. But the biggest character transformation happens to Plankton himself. He started this experiment thinking that Mr. Krabs had an easy life. He thought owning the Krusty Krab meant automatic success and happiness. He discovered the hard truth. Running a successful restaurant requires actual management skills. You need to handle employee emotions. You need to maintain family relationships. You need to defend against competitors. You need to solve problems daily. Success requires constant work and stress management. Plankton could have quit like he did in the original timeline, but by choosing to stay and learn, he actually became the successful businessman he always wanted to be. He proved his college education was worth something. He proved he could handle the pressure. He proved he was more than just 1% evil and 99% hot gas. He became genuinely competent. Meanwhile, in the original body-swapped Mr. Krabs' situation, things get interesting. When Plankton pressed the button, he switched their lives. That means the real Mr. Krabs woke up as Plankton in the chum bucket. Mr. Krabs finds himself tiny and weak. He has no customers. He has no money. He has Karen as a wife instead of being single. His restaurant across the street is now run by Plankton. Mr. Krabs tries to get his life back, but he can't. The machine only works once. Plankton has the only device, and he's not switching back. Mr. Krabs attempts to steal Krabby Patties to prove he still matters. He breaks into his former restaurant naked, swinging on ropes. But now, he's the villain in everyone's eyes. He's the hated creature trying to ruin the Krusty Krab. He's the competitor everyone fears and dislikes. He experiences what Plankton felt for years. Being small, being unsuccessful, being the bad guy. Mr. Krabs finally understands why Plankton was so obsessed with stealing the formula. When you're on the bottom, you'll do anything to climb up. Karen doesn't know the difference. She treats the body-swapped Mr. Krabs exactly like she treated Plankton. She makes holographic meatloaf. She makes sarcastic comments about his failures. Mr. Krabs tries to explain that he's actually Mr. Krabs trapped in Plankton's body, but Karen thinks he's having a mental breakdown. She doesn't believe him. Nobody believes him. He's stuck as Plankton forever. The Bikini Bottom community notices something changed. The Krusty Krab runs better than before. Mr. Plankton seems more organized and efficient than Mr. Krabs ever was. Customers get faster service. The restaurant stays cleaner. Orders are more accurate. People whisper that maybe Plankton was always better suited to run the business. Maybe Mr. Krabs was holding things back with his cheapness and poor management. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a complete role reversal. Plankton becomes the successful restaurant owner. He has money, status, and respect. He learned that success requires actual hard work and management skills, not just stealing formulas. Mr. Krabs becomes the desperate villain trying to steal patties. He experiences poverty and failure for the first time in decades. He learns what it feels like to be constantly defeated and mocked. Years pass. Mr. Plankton expands the business. He opens a second Krusty Krab location in another part of Bikini Bottom. He maintains the original restaurant's quality while growing the brand. Pearl graduates school and goes to college, fully funded by her father's successful business. SpongeBob becomes the head fry cook trainer for new locations. Squidward gets promoted to manager of the second location, where he finally makes enough money to pursue his art more seriously. The body-swapped Mr. Krabs never adjusts to life as Plankton. He keeps trying to steal patties and keeps failing. He grows bitter and angry. He can't understand how Plankton succeeded where he failed. The answer is simple. Plankton adapted. Plankton learned. Plankton refused to quit when things got hard. Mr. Krabs only succeeded originally because he already owned the restaurant and knew how to manage it. When forced to start from scratch as a tiny villain, he couldn't handle it. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that success isn't about having advantages or stealing shortcuts. Success comes from learning to handle whatever situation you're in. Plankton won because he chose to stay and master the challenges instead of running away when life got difficult. He proved that even someone everyone calls a loser can become genuinely successful if they refuse to give up and actually develop real skills. The algae wasn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes you have to learn how to water your own grass. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on, we have Krabby Land, Season 4, Episode 3A. In the original episode, Mr. Krabs learns that summer break has started and kids have allowance money to spend. He expects them to come to the Krusty Krab, but they're all at a new playground instead. Mr. Krabs builds Krabby Land, a cheap playground made of junk, to lure the kids to his restaurant. He promises they can meet Krabby the Clown if they buy food. SpongeBob has to stall the kids while Mr. Krabs counts their money. SpongeBob entertains them by hurting himself in painful ways. Mr. Krabs finally appears as Krabby the Clown, but he's just wearing a blue nose and tie. SpongeBob confronts him about lying to the children. Mr. Krabs climbs out the window and admits he only cares about the parents' money and doesn't care about the children at all. The kids overhear this confession. They chase Mr. Krabs down and tie him up. They force-feed him lima beans as punishment. They throw all his money into the air. SpongeBob says that's the true meaning of summer. Mr. Krabs is tied to poles, screaming about wanting the money back. But what if Plankton had been watching this entire situation unfold? What if he saw the perfect opportunity to steal the formula while Mr. Krabs was completely distracted by greedy schemes and angry children? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton uses Mr. Krabs' own manipulation of children as the perfect cover for his greatest theft. The morning starts exactly the same. SpongeBob reads the newspaper while sipping a drink. Gary makes him French toast. SpongeBob puts on his Krusty Krab hat and checks his motivational calendar. June 21st. The calendar says he's a winner. He realizes today is the first day of summer. He arrives at work with a flower around his head, tossing petals and singing summer songs. Squidward says he's not much of a summer person. Mr. Krabs gets excited when he hears it's the first day of summer. He does backflips and runs to the window. SpongeBob asks what makes summer so special. Mr. Krabs says the money, then corrects himself to say the children. Mr. Krabs explains summer break to SpongeBob. During summer, children leave school and wander Bikini Bottom unsupervised with pockets full of allowance money. They're free to spend without parental guidance. Mr. Krabs pulls down a menu and puts a $4.99 sticker next to the kiddie meal. He says some people try to take advantage by selling toys or candy, but he sleeps well knowing he provides nutritious meals. He goes to the window, calling for the little piggies to come. SpongeBob says he's been taught the true meaning of summer. Later, almost closing time arrives. Mr. Krabs is still standing at the window with the same expression. SpongeBob says it's almost closing time. Mr. Krabs can't believe no kids came. He asks what about the money, then corrects himself to say what about the children. SpongeBob points to a new playground across the way where all the kids are playing. Mr. Krabs sees the playground luring away his young customers. He tells SpongeBob to warm up the boat. They drive to the playground and spy on it with binoculars. Mr. Krabs sees kids swinging, eating lollipops, and sliding down slides. He says they're weak and malnourished with nobody trying to sell them nothing. It breaks his heart. He cries and says he has nothing to live for. SpongeBob compliments how he drove the boat while lying on the ground. Mr. Krabs says that won't get the kids away from the playground unless he has a plan. He tells SpongeBob he has a lot of work to do and drives off. The next day, SpongeBob walks to work wondering what Mr. Krabs has been up to. He sees a group of kids lined up at the Krusty Krab. A sign reads Krabby Land. A giant sheet covers a castle-shaped area. Mr. Krabs announces the grand unveiling of Krabby Land, where a kid can have fun for the right price. He meets a kid named Monroe, shakes him, and hears change in his pocket. His pupils become dollar signs. He tells the children that if they get hungry playing, they should come inside for delicious, nutritious Krabby Patties. The kids promise. Mr. Krabs unveils Krabby Land. The play area is a bunch of cheap rides made of worthless junk. A kid tries a slide and it collapses immediately. Mr. Krabs gives them coloring books that are actually liability waivers. Everyone who hands theirs back gets to meet Krabby the Clown. The kids cheer. Mr. Krabs tells them to eat plenty of Krabby Patties, which are Krabby the Clown's favorite meal. The kids start chanting that they want Krabby. SpongeBob asks where Krabby is. Mr. Krabs says he'll be here after he counts their money. He tells SpongeBob to stall them by being entertaining. SpongeBob faces the angry kids. He puts on a mask and calls himself the Krabby Patty Burglar. A kid named Tyler calls him lame. SpongeBob blows bubble shapes like a jellyfish and seahorse. The kids keep calling him lame and booing. SpongeBob accidentally pours bubble soap in his eyes and crashes into various playground equipment. The kids start laughing. SpongeBob realizes they enjoy other people's misery. He begins hurting himself on purpose to entertain them. He pours bubble soap in his eyes. He rips tape off his face. A truck runs over his tongue. Muscular guys hit him with hammers and wrecking balls. They force-feed him lima beans. They use him as a ping-pong ball. His arms and legs get used as boomerangs. Here's where this timeline splits from the original. In the chaos of Krabby Land, with SpongeBob entertaining the kids and Mr. Krabs counting money in his office, nobody notices a small green figure sneaking into the restaurant. Plankton has been watching this entire scheme from across the street. He saw Mr. Krabs build the cheap playground overnight. He saw the kids arrive. He saw the chaos begin. He realized that Mr. Krabs is completely distracted. This is the perfect opportunity. Plankton enters through a crack in the wall. The restaurant is empty except for Squidward at the register, but Squidward is reading a magazine and not paying attention. All the kids are outside watching SpongeBob hurt himself. All the noise and laughter covers any sounds Plankton might make. He sneaks across the floor toward Mr. Krabs' office. The office door is open because Mr. Krabs is so focused on counting money that he forgot to lock it. Plankton peeks around the corner. Mr. Krabs sits at his desk surrounded by piles of coins and dollar bills. He's counting each piece with his eyes closed in joy. He's completely absorbed in the money. Plankton knows the formula is kept in a safe behind Mr. Krabs' desk. He's tried to get it hundreds of times before, but Mr. Krabs is always guarding it, always watching, always suspicious. Today is different. Today Mr. Krabs is drunk on greed. He's so excited about exploiting children for their allowance money that his guard is completely down. Plankton waits for the right moment. SpongeBob enters the office in pieces, complaining that he can't take any more stalling. His arms and legs are being used as boomerangs. Mr. Krabs tells him to get back out there now that the money is counted and announce that Krabby has arrived. SpongeBob hops out excitedly. Mr. Krabs follows him to appear as Krabby the Clown. The office is empty. Plankton seizes his chance. He runs to the safe. He's brought his safe-cracking device. He attaches it to the lock. The device runs through combinations. It takes 2 minutes. The safe clicks open. Inside sits a glass bottle labeled Secret Formula. Plankton grabs it. After all these years, all these schemes, all these failures, he finally has it. He holds the bottle up and laughs quietly. He can't laugh too loud or someone might hear. He carefully puts the bottle in his pocket and seals the safe again. He replaces everything exactly how it was. Mr. Krabs won't notice the formula is missing until he checks the safe later. Plankton sneaks back out the same way he came in. He exits through the crack in the wall. He runs across the street to the chum bucket. Outside, SpongeBob is announcing that Krabby the Clown is in the building. The kids are cheering. Mr. Krabs appears with just a blue nose and tie on. The kids and SpongeBob are shocked and disappointed. This cheap appearance is all they get. SpongeBob follows Mr. Krabs back inside and confronts him. He calls Mr. Krabs Cheapy the Cheapskate. Mr. Krabs defends himself. SpongeBob asks what about the true meaning of summer and what about the children. Mr. Krabs climbs out the window and confesses he doesn't care about the children. He only cares about their parents' money. He says their feeble minds are easily manipulated by cheap playgrounds and talentless clowns. The kids hear everything. They chase him down and tie him up. While the kids are punishing Mr. Krabs by force-feeding him lima beans and throwing his money into the air, Plankton is in his lab with Karen. He shows her the formula bottle. Karen analyzes it to confirm it's real. It is. This is the actual Krabby Patty secret formula. Plankton programs Karen to remember every ingredient and measurement. He writes it down on paper. He backs it up multiple times. He memorizes it himself. He's taking no chances this time. The formula is his. Several hours pass. The summer miracle ends. The kids eventually leave. Mr. Krabs finally gets untied. He's covered in lima beans and his money is scattered everywhere. He painfully walks back inside his office. SpongeBob and Squidward help clean up the mess. Mr. Krabs sits at his desk exhausted. He thinks about the day. He made good money from the kids buying Krabby Patties before they turned on him. Overall, still profitable. He decides to check on his safe like he does every evening. He opens it, his face goes pale. The formula bottle is gone. Mr. Krabs searches frantically. He pulls everything out of the safe. He checks under his desk. He checks the whole office. The formula has vanished. His heart sinks. He knows what happened. During all that chaos with Krabby Land and the children and the money counting, someone stole it. He knows exactly who. Plankton. Mr. Krabs runs to the window and looks across the street. The chum bucket is dark. Plankton is inside preparing for tomorrow's grand opening of his new menu. The next morning, Bikini Bottom wakes up to something impossible. The chum bucket has a line of customers. Not a long line, but an actual line. Plankton stands at his grill making patties using the exact formula. When customers bite into a chum bucket patty, their eyes widen. It tastes exactly like a Krabby Patty. Word spreads quickly. The formula works. Plankton actually has it this time. Mr. Krabs arrives at the Krusty Krab and sees customers entering the chum bucket. He can't believe it. After everything with Krabby Land and the children, now this happens. SpongeBob arrives for work. Mr. Krabs tells him the formula was stolen. SpongeBob gasps. He asks how it happened. Mr. Krabs explains that while he was distracted with Krabby Land, Plankton must have snuck in and taken it. SpongeBob feels terrible. He was outside hurting himself to entertain the kids. He should have been watching. Mr. Krabs says it's not SpongeBob's fault. It's his own fault for getting so greedy about the children's money that he forgot to protect what really mattered. The character dynamics shift dramatically. Mr. Krabs learns the hard way that greed leads to disaster. He was so focused on exploiting children for their allowance money that he left his business vulnerable. His scheme to manipulate kids with a cheap playground and fake clown backfired completely. Not only did the kids turn on him and humiliate him, but his distraction allowed Plankton to steal the formula. Mr. Krabs realizes that all the money in the world means nothing if you lose your business in the process. The true meaning of summer wasn't about money. It was never about money. SpongeBob learns that manipulation always has consequences. Mr. Krabs lied to the children about Krabby the Clown. He built a dangerous playground out of junk. He admitted he only cared about their money. The children heard this and punished him. But the real punishment was losing the formula during all that chaos. SpongeBob understands now that when you try to trick people, especially children, the universe has a way of balancing things out. Mr. Krabs got what he deserved. Plankton finally achieves his life goal, but not through his usual complicated schemes. He succeeded by simply being patient and watching for the right moment. When Mr. Krabs became distracted by greed, Plankton took advantage. Sometimes the best plan is the simplest one. Wait for your enemy to make a mistake, then strike. Plankton's years of failure taught him this lesson. All those elaborate schemes failed because Mr. Krabs was always prepared for them. But Mr. Krabs couldn't prepare for his own greed, making him vulnerable. The Bikini Bottom community reacts with mixed feelings. On one hand, they're glad Mr. Krabs is being punished for exploiting children. They saw what he did with Krabby Land. They heard his confession about not caring about the kids. They think he deserved to lose his business. On the other hand, they're not sure about Plankton running the most successful restaurant in town. Plankton has tried to steal the formula hundreds of times. He's known as a villain. Can they really trust him? Over the following weeks, the chum bucket grows while the Krusty Krab shrinks. Without the formula, Mr. Krabs can't compete. He tries other recipes, but nothing works. Customers know the difference. They choose the chum bucket because it has the real Krabby Patty taste. Mr. Krabs' business slowly dies. He can't pay full wages anymore. He has to let Squidward go. Eventually, even SpongeBob has to find other work. The Krusty Krab closes permanently 3 months after the Krabby Land incident. SpongeBob gets a job at the chum bucket. Plankton hires him because SpongeBob is the best fry cook in town. SpongeBob feels conflicted working for Plankton, but he needs a job. He needs to cook. It's who he is, so he works at the chum bucket, making patties for Plankton instead of Mr. Krabs. It feels wrong at first, but SpongeBob adjusts. He learns that loyalty to a person who manipulates children isn't really loyalty, it's just enabling bad behavior. Mr. Krabs takes a job working for someone else. The proud restaurant owner becomes an employee. He thinks constantly about that day. If only he hadn't built Krabby Land. If only he hadn't gotten so greedy about summer break allowance money. If only he had protected his safe. If only he had been less focused on counting coins and more focused on security. All those if-onlys don't change reality. The formula is gone, his business is gone, his success is gone. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a complete reversal of power. Plankton becomes the successful restaurant owner. Mr. Krabs becomes the failure. The catalyst for this change was Mr. Krabs' own greed and manipulation. His scheme to exploit children during summer break created the perfect distraction. Plankton simply had to be smart enough to recognize the opportunity and take it. Sometimes you don't need a complicated plan. You just need to wait for your enemy to defeat themselves. Years later, people still talk about the summer of Krabby Land. They talk about how Mr. Krabs built a dangerous playground out of junk, how he promised kids they could meet Krabby the Clown, how he appeared wearing just a blue nose and tie, how he confessed he only cared about money, how the kids tied him up and force-fed him lima beans, and how during all that chaos, Plankton walked in and stole the formula that changed everything. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that greed and manipulation create blind spots. When you're too focused on taking advantage of people, you can't see threats coming from other directions. Mr. Krabs was so excited about exploiting children for their allowance money that he forgot to protect his most valuable asset. His greed literally destroyed his business. The true meaning of summer turned out to be a warning. When you manipulate the innocent for profit, you leave yourself open to being outsmarted by someone even more ruthless. Plankton won because Mr. Krabs defeated himself through his own cheapness, lies, and greed. The kids got their revenge, Plankton got the formula, and Mr. Krabs got exactly what he deserved for not caring about anything except money. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on to Krabs vs. Plankton, Season 4, Episode 11A. Krabs vs. Plankton, Season 4, Episode 11A. In the original episode, Plankton walks into the Krusty Krab and slips on a wet floor that SpongeBob just mopped. Mr. Krabs mocks him for being a failure. Two customers say if they slipped, they would sue Mr. Krabs for everything he has. Plankton overhears this and pretends to be badly injured. He threatens to sue unless Mr. Krabs gives him the Krabby Patty formula. Mr. Krabs refuses and hires lawyer Richard A. Bottom feeder. The lawyer slips on the same wet floor and gets hurt. He tells SpongeBob to handle the case using materials in his briefcase. SpongeBob becomes SpongeBob Lawyer Pants but can't open the briefcase. During the trial, SpongeBob's defense is terrible. He shreds $1 to prove Mr. Krabs isn't cheap, but Mr. Krabs freaks out trying to save the money. Squidward testifies that Mr. Krabs is definitely cheap. SpongeBob questions a mop as a witness. Finally, the briefcase opens. Inside is just a Krabby Patty, which was the lawyer's lunch. SpongeBob gets an idea. He calls Plankton to the witness stand and tempts him with the patty. Plankton can't resist. He takes off his fake injury casts and jumps for the patty. This proves he was faking the whole injury just to steal the formula. The jury finds Mr. Krabs not guilty. SpongeBob makes Mr. Krabs a homemade wet floor sign with nails in it. But what if Plankton had kept his composure on the witness stand? What if he resisted the temptation and won the lawsuit? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton's fake injury lawsuit succeeds and he legally forces Mr. Krabs to give up the Krabby Patty formula. The morning starts exactly the same. A clam crows like a rooster. Plankton wakes up with his eye showing veins. He tells Karen about another sleepless night haunted by his inability to steal even a single Krabby Patty. Karen says maybe today will be the day. Plankton says he's going to wing it and asks what's the worst thing that could happen. He walks through the Krusty Krab door. He slips and falls into a puddle of water. SpongeBob tells him to be careful because he just mopped there. Mr. Krabs walks over and mocks Plankton. He holds a Krabby Patty in front of his face and says Plankton has tried and tried but never got even the smallest nibble. He asks how Plankton sleeps at night, knowing he's a complete failure. Two customers named Charlie and Nat Peterson watch this happen. Charlie says there really should be a wet floor sign. Nat says if that were him who slipped, he would sue Old Man Krabs for all he's got. Plankton hears this and asks if that includes the Krabby Patty formula. Charlie says, of course. Plankton's eye lights up. He falls back and pretends to be injured. He screams about the pain and says he can't feel his arms and legs. He says he'll have to sue for pain and suffering. Mr. Krabs bursts through his office door, yelling about being sued. Other customers comment that it looks bad and feel sorry for the poor little man. Ambulance workers arrive and put Plankton on a stretcher. Mr. Krabs asks if they need to drag this into court. Plankton says he'll forget the gross negligence if Mr. Krabs transfers the Krabby Patty formula to him. Mr. Krabs refuses and says Plankton will get the formula when he pries it from his lifeless claws. Plankton laughs and says he'll see Mr. Krabs in court. The ambulance workers carry him away. Mr. Krabs paces back and forth saying he's doomed. SpongeBob promises to do whatever it takes to keep the formula from Plankton's evil hands. Mr. Krabs says he needs a good lawyer. Richard A. Bottomfeeder appears offering his services. He's a lawyer who won't charge anything unless they win. He suggests they countersue for everything Plankton owns. Mr. Krabs' eyes turn into gold bars and he falls over from the weight. SpongeBob offers to give testimony as a character witness. Mr. Krabs says they won't need SpongeBob's testimony because he would be more of a liability than an asset. The lawyer has to get to court early for free parking. As he walks out, he slips on the wet floor and gets injured. He tells SpongeBob he'll have to handle the case. Everything SpongeBob needs to win is in the briefcase, except a suit. SpongeBob takes the lawyer's suit. At the Bikini Bottom courthouse, Plankton enters in a wheelchair. He whispers to Mr. Krabs that he'll drop the charges if Mr. Krabs gives him the formula. Mr. Krabs yells never. The audience gasps. Plankton dramatically pretends his little arm hurts, then his other arm. Judge Stickleback asks where Mr. Krabs' attorney is. SpongeBob bursts through the door wearing a gray suit. He introduces himself as SpongeBob Lawyer Pants. He tries to open the briefcase but doesn't have the combination. Plankton gives his testimony. He says he was a vibrant, carefree, happy-go-lucky single cell. Then he visited the death trap known as the Krusty Krab. He slipped on a hard, unforgiving floor that had been intentionally covered with a viscous fluid. The worst part is, his dreams of completing a marathon, like he promised his Grammy, have been dashed. He cries. The entire audience starts crying. SpongeBob also cries about poor Gram Gram. Mr. Krabs takes the stand. Plankton shows him a wet floor sign and asks if he owns one. Mr. Krabs admits he doesn't. He says he had to make tough business decisions, and the sign seems superfluous. The audience all say guilty. SpongeBob tries to defend Mr. Krabs. He says Mr. Krabs has been called cheap and miserly. But if he were really that cheap, would he sit quietly while SpongeBob took out $1 and dropped it in a blender? SpongeBob presses the obliterate button. Mr. Krabs screams and runs to save the shredded dollar pieces. The jury talks amongst themselves. Squidward testifies and confirms Mr. Krabs is cheap. He says he's had 1 day off in 3 years. SpongeBob questions the mop he was using as a witness. Mr. Krabs says his goose is cooked. SpongeBob finally hits the briefcase with his fist, and it opens. Inside is just a Krabby Patty, which was the lawyer's lunch. SpongeBob gets an idea. He calls Plankton to the witness stand. He asks why Plankton went into the Krusty Krab that day. Plankton says to say hello to his once good friend Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob shows him the Krabby Patty and asks if he wasn't really there to steal the formula of the most delicious, sweet-smelling sandwich known to Bikini Bottom. Plankton starts sweating. He stares at the patty. This is where the timeline splits. In the original episode, Plankton can't resist. He takes off his fake casts and jumps for the patty, proving he faked the injury. But in this alternative version, Plankton remembers his college education. He remembers all his years of planning. He remembers that he's on the witness stand in front of a jury. He closes his eye and takes a deep breath. He turns away from the patty. He says in a weak voice that he can't eat solid food anymore because of his injuries. He says seeing that delicious patty just reminds him of everything he's lost. A single tear rolls down his face. The jury gasps in sympathy. SpongeBob waves the patty closer. He describes how delicious it is. Plankton keeps his eyes closed. He says, "Stop. Please stop torturing him." Judge Stickleback bangs his gavel and tells SpongeBob to stop harassing the witness. SpongeBob has nothing else. He sits down, defeated. Plankton wheels himself back to his table. Under his breath, where nobody can hear, he whispers that being evil is too much fun. But on the outside, he maintains his injured victim performance perfectly. Judge Stickleback asks if the jury has reached a verdict. Tom stands up. He says they find the defendant guilty. The audience cheers. Judge Stickleback bangs his gavel for order. He asks what damages the jury awards. Tom says Plankton deserves compensation for his pain, suffering, and lost dreams. They award him everything Mr. Krabs owns. That includes the Krusty Krab building, all equipment, all money, and yes, the Krabby Patty secret formula. Mr. Krabs screams no. Judge Stickleback bangs his gavel. The ruling is final. Mr. Krabs must turn over everything to Plankton within 24 hours. That evening, Mr. Krabs sits in his office holding the formula bottle. His claws shake. SpongeBob stands next to him crying. Mr. Krabs says he can't believe it's over. After all these years of protecting the formula, he has to give it to Plankton because of a wet floor. SpongeBob blames himself. If only he had put out a wet floor sign. If only he had warned Plankton more clearly. If only he had been a better lawyer. Mr. Krabs says it's not SpongeBob's fault. It's his own fault for being too cheap to buy a wet floor sign. His cheapness finally destroyed him. The next morning, Plankton arrives at the Krusty Krab with official court documents. Mr. Krabs hands over the keys to the building. He hands over the safe combination. He hands over the formula bottle. Plankton takes it with both tiny hands. He looks at the bottle. After all these years of schemes and failures, he finally has it, and he got it legally. Nobody can take it away. The court awarded it to him. It's officially his property now. Plankton laughs. He tells Mr. Krabs to get out of his restaurant. Mr. Krabs walks out with nothing. SpongeBob and Squidward follow him. They're unemployed now. Plankton renames the restaurant. The Krusty Krab sign comes down. The Chum Bucket sign goes up. He keeps the same layout because the building already works perfectly for a restaurant. He keeps the kitchen equipment because it's designed for making Krabby Patties. He studies the formula carefully. He memorizes every ingredient and measurement. He programs Karen to remember it as backup. He practices making patties using the exact recipe. His first few attempts are decent. After a week of practice, he perfects the technique. His patties taste exactly like Mr. Krabs' version. Plankton reopens the restaurant under new management. He hires SpongeBob as his fry cook. SpongeBob feels conflicted but needs a job. He needs to cook. It's who he is. SpongeBob agrees to work for Plankton. Plankton even hires Squidward as cashier. Squidward doesn't want to work for Plankton, but he needs money to pay rent. Both employees feel uncomfortable working for someone who sued their former boss, but they have bills to pay. The first day of the new restaurant is busy. Customers come out of curiosity. They want to know if Plankton's version tastes the same. SpongeBob makes the patties in the kitchen. They come out perfect because SpongeBob is still the best fry cook in Bikini Bottom. Customers bite into their food. Their eyes widen. It tastes exactly the same. The formula works. Plankton stands at the door greeting customers. He's finally a successful restaurant owner. He finally proved everyone wrong who called him a failure. The character dynamics transform completely. Mr. Krabs loses everything he worked for his entire adult life. He built the Krusty Krab from nothing. He created the Krabby Patty. He protected the formula for decades. All of it gone because he was too cheap to buy a $5 wet floor sign. He learns the hardest lesson possible. Extreme cheapness leads to extreme consequences. If he had just spent a tiny amount of money on basic safety equipment, none of this would have happened. His cheapness literally destroyed his life. SpongeBob learns that loyalty to an employer has limits. He worked for Mr. Krabs for years. He loved his job. He defended Mr. Krabs constantly. But when Mr. Krabs lost the lawsuit, SpongeBob had to move on. He couldn't stay unemployed. He had to pay bills. Sometimes life forces you to work for people you don't agree with. SpongeBob still makes Krabby Patties, but now he makes them for Plankton instead. The work is the same, but it feels different. It feels wrong, but necessary. Squidward actually benefits slightly in this timeline. He still hates his job, but at least Plankton pays him properly. Plankton doesn't want another lawsuit, so he follows all labor laws carefully. Squidward gets scheduled breaks. He gets overtime pay. He gets the day off he requested without argument. Plankton learned from the lawsuit that proper business practices prevent legal problems. Squidward still wants to quit, but the working conditions are marginally better than under Mr. Krabs. Plankton experiences the biggest transformation. He goes from the biggest loser in Bikini Bottom to a successful business owner. He didn't win through technology or violence, he won through the legal system. He sued Mr. Krabs for legitimate negligence and won. The court awarded him everything. It's all legal and official. Nobody can call him a thief. Nobody can say he cheated. He won fair and square using the rules of society. This makes his victory even sweeter. Mr. Krabs tries to start over. He takes a job working for someone else. The proud business owner becomes an employee. He works as a cashier at Bargain Mart. He earns minimum wage. He hates every second. He thinks constantly about the Krusty Krab. He thinks about that wet floor. He thinks about his cheapness. Every decision he ever made to save a penny comes back to haunt him. That wet floor sign would have cost $5. Losing everything cost him millions. The math is simple and painful. The Bikini Bottom community has mixed reactions. Some people feel bad for Mr. Krabs. He lost his business over an accident. But other people remember how cheap Mr. Krabs was. They remember him charging customers for napkins. They remember him never giving raises. They remember him making employees buy their own uniforms. They think maybe he deserved this. Maybe karma caught up with him. His extreme cheapness finally backfired. Pearl loses her comfortable life. Her father owned a successful restaurant. Now he works at Bargain Mart. She has to get a part-time job to help pay bills. She can't go shopping as much. She can't buy new clothes every week. She learns what financial struggle feels like. She asks her dad why he didn't just buy a wet floor sign. Mr. Krabs has no good answer. He just says he thought he was saving money. Pearl learns that her father's cheapness hurt their whole family. 6 months pass. The restaurant, formerly known as the Krusty Krab, runs successfully under Plankton's ownership. He expands the menu slightly. He adds new items. He maintains the quality of Krabby Patties while growing the business. He proves he's not just a one-trick villain. He's actually a capable businessman when given the chance. He sleeps well at night knowing he finally achieved his life's goal. No more sleepless nights haunted by failure. He succeeded. Karen watches her husband thrive. She's proud of him for staying disciplined on the witness stand. She knows how hard it was for him to resist that Krabby Patty when SpongeBob waved it in his face. But Plankton's discipline saved everything. If he had broken character and jumped for the patty, he would have lost the case. His self-control won the lawsuit and changed his entire life. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a complete reversal of fortune. Plankton becomes the successful restaurant owner. Mr. Krabs becomes the failure working minimum wage. The cause of this reversal is Mr. Krabs' extreme cheapness combined with Plankton's unexpected discipline. Mr. Krabs was too cheap to buy basic safety equipment. Plankton was disciplined enough to resist temptation during the trial. Those two factors combined to transfer everything from one to the other. Years later, people still talk about the famous lawsuit. They talk about how Plankton slipped on a wet floor and sued Mr. Krabs for everything. They talk about how SpongeBob was a terrible lawyer who shredded money and questioned a mop. They talk about how Plankton resisted the Krabby Patty on the witness stand. They talk about how the jury awarded Plankton the restaurant and the formula. It becomes the most famous court case in Bikini Bottom history. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that cutting corners on safety leads to disaster. Mr. Krabs saved $5 by not buying a wet floor sign. That decision cost him everything he owned. His extreme cheapness created the exact situation he feared most. Someone sued him and took his formula. If he had just spent tiny amounts of money on basic safety measures, none of this would have happened. Sometimes being cheap costs more than being generous. Plankton's victory also teaches a lesson about patience and discipline. He spent years trying complicated schemes to steal the formula. They all failed because they required too many things to go right. This time, he used a simple plan. Fake an injury, sue in court, resist temptation during testimony, win the lawsuit. The formula becomes his legally. Simple plans work better than complicated ones if you have the discipline to follow through. SpongeBob learns that good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes. He tried his best to defend Mr. Krabs. He became a lawyer to help his boss. But his inexperience and the weakness of the case meant he couldn't win. Sometimes trying hard isn't enough. Sometimes the other side has a better position. SpongeBob did everything he could, but Mr. Krabs' cheapness made the case unwinnable. You can't defend someone from the consequences of their own bad choices. The ending of this alternative timeline shows Plankton living his dream life. He runs a successful restaurant. He has the secret formula. He has employees. He has customers. He has money. He has respect. Everything he wanted for years is finally his, and he got it all because Mr. Krabs was too cheap to buy a wet floor sign. Sometimes success comes not from being the smartest or strongest, but from being patient enough to wait for your enemy to make a fatal mistake. Mr. Krabs made that mistake by being too cheap, and Plankton was ready to take advantage when the opportunity appeared. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on, we have the Krabby Chronicle, Season 6, Episode 1B. In the original episode, Mr. Krabs starts a newspaper called the Krabby Chronicle with SpongeBob as his reporter. SpongeBob writes boring but truthful stories. Mr. Krabs tells him to use imagination and embellish the truth to sell more papers. SpongeBob writes fake, sensationalized stories that hurt people in the community. Mrs. Puff loses her business after a story about a high-speed chase. Larry gets banned from his gym after a story calling him a loser. Plankton's restaurant gets shut down by a health inspector after a story claiming he serves customers as chum. Sandy loses her science awards after a story calling her dumb. SpongeBob feels guilty, but Mr. Krabs threatens to take away his spatula if he stops. Finally, SpongeBob writes an expose revealing that Mr. Krabs overworks him for pennies while making huge profits from bogus stories. An angry mob storms the Krusty Krab and takes all of Mr. Krabs' money back. Mr. Krabs learns that trying to make easy money doesn't pay. Patrick appears at the end actually married to the pole from the fake story. But what if SpongeBob never wrote that final expose about Mr. Krabs? What if the fake news newspaper continued operating without consequences? This alternative timeline explores what happens when sensationalized lies keep selling and nobody stops the operation. The day starts exactly the same. SpongeBob rings the order bell 3 times. Mr. Krabs asks how it looks out there. SpongeBob says 2 more satisfied regulars. Mr. Krabs says he's not interested in same old regulars. He took out an ad in the Bikini Bottom Examiner to bring in new customers. It only cost him a nickel. He asks how many new customers arrived. SpongeBob counts and says none. Mr. Krabs goes outside and sees the Examiner newspaper box hasn't been touched in months. The bottom feeder newspaper box has a long line. Mr. Krabs asks a customer about it. Nat says nobody reads the Examiner because it's full of boring charts and facts. The bottom feeder has interesting stories and stuff. Mr. Krabs looks at a story titled, Fish Boy Strikes Again. He asks if these stories are less than truthful. Nat says he doesn't know, but they're selling. Mr. Krabs checks advertising costs. 25 cents per word, he screams. The newspaper business is easy money. His shell cracks and underneath is his body made of money. The next day, SpongeBob walks into the Krusty Krab. He hits his face on something. Mr. Krabs assembled a printing press overnight. SpongeBob now has 2 jobs. He's still the fry cook and also the lead reporter for the new Krabby Chronicle. SpongeBob gets a press badge and camera. He walks down the street looking for juicy stories. A bank robbery happens behind him. 2 fish destroy a boat with fire. A monster appears. SpongeBob ignores all of this. He sees Patrick waiting at what looks like a bus stop. Patrick explains he's watching a pole, so next time it moves, he'll see it. SpongeBob calls this juicy and takes his picture. Back at the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob finishes writing and printing the newspapers. Mr. Krabs asks a customer if he wants a copy. Frank says it looks boring and just wants a Krabby Patty. Mr. Krabs reads the headline about local resident watches pole. He tells SpongeBob nobody will pay to read this. He needs to use imagination. Instead of man watches pole, say man marries pole. Alter the photo to fit the headline. SpongeBob asks if that's lying. Mr. Krabs says don't think of it as lying, think of it as a practical joke that everybody can laugh about. The public expects embellishment. SpongeBob hides behind a trash can at an intersection. Mrs. Puff pulls up. A policeman pulls up behind her. SpongeBob takes a picture. The headline becomes boating teacher in high-speed chase. Mr. Krabs celebrates because the paper sells everywhere. SpongeBob says that's not the story he wrote. Mr. Krabs calls it editorial privilege. He asks how such a little news story could possibly affect Mrs. Puff. The scene shows Mrs. Puff's boating school completely empty. She says the little news story ruined her business. SpongeBob continues investigating. He hides in a chimney watching Larry the Lobster with binoculars. A customer named Frankie asks Larry if he can punch him in the gut. Larry says everybody does and it won't hurt. Frankie punches him. SpongeBob takes pictures. The story becomes Larry the loser gets beaten up by Pipsqueak. The gym teacher throws Larry out and bans him forever for being a wimp. SpongeBob writes about Plankton next. The headline claims Plankton's chum made of your chums, and that the chum bucket serves your friends in more ways than one. Health Inspector Yellowtail shows up and officially closes down the restaurant. Plankton asks who's to blame. SpongeBob watches from hiding and walks away. SpongeBob continues writing. He targets Sandy next. The headline says Sandy Cheeks or Sandy Chump and calls the bushy-tailed brainiac really a slow-witted squirrel. Two scientists from the Neptunian Science Committee arrive to confiscate all her science awards. Sandy gets angry and the scientists run away. Mr. Krabs sits in his office surrounded by mountains of money. Over 5 billion copies sold according to a sign outside. SpongeBob tells Mr. Krabs he can't write these stories anymore. He's seen people's lives ruined with his own eyes. Mr. Krabs says people want wild, juicy stories because that's what sells. He wants the wildest story ever, one that tops all the others. SpongeBob says he's written about everyone in town. Mr. Krabs tells him to surprise him with a shocker. He leaves SpongeBob in the office overnight. Here's where this timeline splits from the original. In the original episode, SpongeBob writes an expose about Mr. Krabs overworking him. The community reads it, gets angry, and storms the restaurant to take the money back. But in this alternative version, SpongeBob doesn't have that idea. He's too exhausted and guilt-ridden to think clearly. He stares at the typewriter all night but can't think of anything. His conscience weighs on him. Every person he hurt appears in his mind. Mrs. Puff losing her business, Larry getting banned from the gym, Plankton's restaurant getting shut down, Sandy losing her awards. He can't do this anymore. Morning comes. Mr. Krabs runs in excited to see the wildest story ever. SpongeBob turns around looking exhausted. He tells Mr. Krabs he couldn't write anything. He spent all night trying, but he just can't hurt anyone else. Mr. Krabs gets angry. He reminds SpongeBob about the spatula threat. SpongeBob says he knows, but some things matter more than keeping his job. He hands over his spatula and his press badge. He quits. Mr. Krabs is shocked. SpongeBob walks out of the Krusty Krab. Mr. Krabs stands there holding the spatula and press badge. He realizes he has a problem. The newspaper sells amazingly well, but he needs a reporter to write the stories. He can't write them himself because he's too busy running the restaurant and counting money. He needs someone with imagination who won't quit because of guilty feelings. He gets an idea. He walks across the street to the chum bucket. Plankton sits outside his closed restaurant feeling depressed. Karen tries to comfort him, but he's devastated. His restaurant got shut down because of fake news. Mr. Krabs walks up. Plankton expects him to gloat. Instead, Mr. Krabs makes an offer. He needs a new reporter for the Krabby Chronicle. He'll pay well. More importantly, he'll use his connections to get Plankton's restaurant reopened. All Plankton has to do is write sensational stories. Plankton asks why Mr. Krabs would help him. Mr. Krabs explains that SpongeBob quit because he felt too guilty. But Plankton won't have that problem. Plankton has no morals. He's 1% evil and 99% hot gas. Writing lies won't bother him at all. Plankton thinks about it. His restaurant is closed. He needs money, he needs work. And Mr. Krabs offering to reopen the chum bucket is valuable. Plankton agrees. He becomes the new reporter for the Krabby Chronicle. Mr. Krabs uses his money and influence to convince the health inspector that the story about Plankton serving customers as chum was just fake news. The chum bucket gets reopened. Plankton works 2 jobs now. He runs his restaurant during slow hours and writes newspaper stories during busy hours. Plankton turns out to be an excellent tabloid reporter. He has no conscience to hold him back. He writes increasingly wild and destructive stories. He targets anyone and everyone. He invents scandals about people who did nothing wrong. He takes innocent photos and creates fake stories around them. He's creative and ruthless. The newspaper sales go through the roof. Mr. Krabs makes more money than ever. Plankton gets paid well, and his own restaurant stays open. The character dynamics shift dramatically. SpongeBob is unemployed. He lost his dream job because he refused to hurt people anymore. He feels terrible about all the damage he caused with his stories. He tries to apologize to everyone he hurt. Mrs. Puff won't speak to him. Larry won't look at him. Sandy tells him to leave her tree dome. Plankton actually thanks him sarcastically for ruining his life, though secretly Plankton benefited from everything. SpongeBob spends his days at home with Gary, depressed and jobless. His optimism fades. He learns that doing the right thing sometimes costs you everything. Mr. Krabs becomes wealthier than ever. The newspaper generates more profit than the restaurant. He barely cares about selling Krabby Patties anymore. The The Krabby Chronicle is his new focus. He pays Plankton well enough to keep him writing, but keeps most profits for himself. He expands his newspaper empire. He opens distribution centers. He hires more employees to handle printing and delivery. His greed reaches new heights. He learns that lying sells better than truth and feels no guilt about it. Plankton experiences an unexpected rise in status. He went from failed restaurant owner to successful tabloid journalist. He has money coming in from 2 sources now. The chum bucket operates with minimal customers but stays open. The newspaper job pays better anyway. Plankton discovers he's good at creating drama and chaos. His evil 1% shines through perfectly in tabloid journalism. He enjoys ruining people's lives through words. It's almost more satisfying than trying to steal the formula. He still wants the formula, but now he has backup income while planning his next theft attempt. The Bikini Bottom community suffers greatly. Every week brings new fake scandals. Innocent people get destroyed by false stories. Businesses close. Reputations get ruined. Relationships fall apart. The entire town lives in fear of becoming the next target. Nobody feels safe. Anyone could be tomorrow's headline. The social fabric breaks down. People stop trusting each other. If the newspaper says something, everyone believes it even though everything is lies. Truth becomes meaningless when lies sell better. Mrs. Puff never recovers her student base. Parents won't send their kids to a boating teacher who was supposedly in a high-speed chase. She tries explaining it was fake news, but nobody believes her. The newspaper wouldn't print lies, right? She has to close her school permanently. She takes a job working retail. Her life dream of teaching boating safety dies because of one false headline. Larry loses his reputation as the toughest guy in town. Kids do try to beat him up for lunch money. His gym membership stays revoked. He can't rebuild his image. Once you're labeled a loser, people remember it. He moves to a different city to start over, where nobody knows about the newspaper story. He learns that reputation matters more than truth. Sandy considers moving back to Texas. Her scientific reputation got destroyed. The research community won't take her seriously anymore. They saw the headline calling her a slow-witted squirrel. She explains it was fake news, but damage is done. Scientists are supposed to be smart. If a newspaper questions your intelligence, funding committees get nervous. Her career in Bikini Bottom ends. She contemplates leaving everything behind. Squidward becomes one of the few people who benefits slightly. He still works at the Krusty Krab, but now it's just as a cashier. Mr. Krabs focuses so much on the newspaper that he doesn't micromanage the restaurant anymore. Squidward has more freedom to read magazines and practice clarinet during slow periods. He hates that his coworker SpongeBob got fired, but enjoys the peace and quiet. He worries constantly about becoming a target, though. Any day could bring a false story about him. Patrick doesn't understand what happened. He knows SpongeBob doesn't work at the Krusty Krab anymore. He knows his best friend seems sad all the time. He knows there's a newspaper with his picture saying he married a pole. He doesn't understand that these things are connected. Patrick actually does develop an attachment to the pole after seeing the photo. The fake story kind of becomes real through Patrick's simple acceptance of it. This disturbs everyone who witnesses it. 6 months pass in this new timeline. The Krabby Chronicle dominates Bikini Bottom media. Mr. Krabs becomes the wealthiest citizen in town. Plankton runs both his restaurant and his reporting job successfully. SpongeBob remains unemployed and depressed. The community suffers under constant fake news. People's lives get ruined weekly. Trust disappears. Truth becomes whatever the newspaper says. Nobody challenges it because Mr. Krabs has money and power now. Money buys influence. Influence protects the operation. The Bikini Bottom Examiner, the original truthful newspaper, goes out of business completely. Nobody wants facts and charts. They want juicy, scandalous stories. Truth is boring. Lies are entertaining. The market has spoken. Sensationalism wins. Journalism loses. The community loses access to real information. They only get whatever Mr. Krabs decides to print. He controls the narrative. He controls public opinion. His newspaper empire gives him more power than his restaurant ever did. SpongeBob eventually finds a new job at the Weenie Hut. It's not the same as cooking Krabby Patties. He misses the Krusty Krab every day. But he made his choice. He chose ethics over employment. He chose conscience over career. Some people in town respect him for quitting. They know he refused to keep hurting people. Others blame him for starting the whole newspaper disaster in the first place. If he hadn't written those initial stories, none of this would have happened. SpongeBob accepts both perspectives. He knows he made mistakes. He also knows he tried to stop when he realized the harm. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a Bikini Bottom controlled by fake news. Mr. Krabs runs a media empire built on lies. Plankton becomes a successful tabloid journalist. SpongeBob loses everything by choosing ethics. The community suffers constant reputation destruction. Trust dies, truth becomes meaningless. Money and sensationalism win. The moral center of Bikini Bottom, represented by SpongeBob, gets removed from influence. The town becomes darker, meaner, and more cynical. Years later, people barely remember when news used to be truthful. The Krabby Chronicle is just how things are now. Every week brings new scandals and destroyed lives. Mr. Krabs keeps getting richer. Plankton keeps writing lies. SpongeBob works quietly at the Weenie Hut, forgotten by most people. The yellow sponge who once tried to do the right thing becomes a cautionary tale about standing up to powerful bosses. You can't fight money. You can't fight sensationalism. You can't win when the truth doesn't matter anymore. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that unethical journalism destroys communities. When lies sell better than truth, society breaks down. People lose faith in information. Reputations get destroyed for profit. The innocent suffer so others can make money. SpongeBob learned this lesson and quit. But quitting didn't stop the machine. It just meant someone else took his place. Someone with no conscience. Someone who enjoyed the destruction. The system kept running without the one person who cared about ethics. This alternative timeline shows what happens when good people leave bad situations, but bad situations continue anyway. SpongeBob did the right thing by quitting, but his departure didn't fix the problem. It just removed the one person who might have eventually stopped it. Sometimes doing the right thing personally doesn't create the right outcome globally. Sometimes evil wins because good people step aside instead of finding ways to fight effectively. The Krabby Chronicle succeeds because nobody figures out how to stop it, and SpongeBob's sacrifice means nothing except to his own conscience. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on to Spy Buddies, Season 5, Episode 3A. In the original episode, Mr. Krabs worries that Plankton hasn't tried stealing the formula in over a month. He asks SpongeBob to spy on Plankton. Patrick joins as well. They get spy gadgets from Sandy, including jetpacks, laser-equipped Bermuda shorts, nose cameras, magnifying glasses, and a knockout ray. Sandy doesn't trust them with the equipment, but Patrick knocks her out and they take everything. SpongeBob and Patrick follow Plankton around Bikini Bottom. Plankton buys baby clothes and a stamp. They cause massive damage trying to spy on him. Their gadgets malfunction constantly. Patrick's laser pants destroy the chum bucket. Plankton attacks the Krusty Krab in a blimp. Mr. Krabs fights back. The blimp crashes and destroys the Krusty Krab. Then comes the big reveal. Mr. Krabs was disguised as Plankton the whole time. Plankton was disguised as Mr. Krabs using a robot body. They made a bet. Mr. Krabs bet he could steal his own formula if he was Plankton. They switched lives through elaborate means. Mr. Krabs won the bet. Plankton has to pay him $1. Multiple disguise reveals happen at the end with various characters. The episode ends with SpongeBob confused about two Patricks. But what if Plankton won the bet instead of Mr. Krabs? What if Plankton successfully stole the formula while disguised as Mr. Krabs and proved he was better at being Mr. Krabs than Mr. Krabs was at being Plankton? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton's disguise and planning outmatch Mr. Krabs' attempt. The day starts exactly the same. A shadow that looks like Plankton walks into the Krusty Krab. The shadow uses the code to get inside. It goes to Mr. Krabs' office and opens the safe. SpongeBob turns on the lights. The shadow is actually Mr. Krabs. He explains he's making sure the Krabby Patty formula is safe. Plankton hasn't tried stealing it in over a month. He must be planning something big. Squidward walks in and immediately walks out when Mr. Krabs mentions extra work. Mr. Krabs says someone needs to volunteer to spy on Plankton. SpongeBob gets excited about being a spy. Patrick sees SpongeBob through a straw and wants to be a spy too. They both become spy buddies. Mr. Krabs gives them instructions on a Krabby Patty. The fate of the Krusty Krab rests in SpongeBob's hands. At SpongeBob's house, they push the button on the patty. Mr. Krabs' voice explains the mission. They need to discover what Plankton's up to and not let him out of their sight. They need spy gadgets. If they don't accept, SpongeBob is fired. The patty will self-destruct in 10 seconds. Patrick and SpongeBob scream. Patrick puts the patty in his pants. It explodes. The bottom half of Patrick's body loses skin. SpongeBob's pineapple walls get fried and turn greenish. They visit Sandy's tree dome. She explains spy gadgets like jetpacks, laser-equipped Bermuda shorts with walkie-talkies, nose cameras, magnifying glasses, and knockout rays. She laughs and says she wouldn't trust them with any of this stuff. Patrick picks up the knockout ray and knocks Sandy out. They take all the gadgets. SpongeBob and Patrick spy from the side of a building. Plankton walks into Guppies R Us to buy baby clothes. He asks for size -5. The employee says that's as small as they come. SpongeBob reports to Mr. Krabs that Plankton bought baby clothes. Mr. Krabs writes it on a chalkboard. Then Plankton buys a stamp. Mr. Krabs writes that down too. He calls it the most elaborate scheme ever. SpongeBob and Patrick follow Plankton by tiptoeing behind him. Their steps sound like thunder to Plankton. He turns around and squeaks at them, but they can't understand. SpongeBob shines the magnifying glass on Plankton. Plankton catches on fire. Patrick uses the jetpack. They fly into Plankton and cause more damage. The jetpack detaches, and they crash into the sidewalk. They lose Plankton. They get into the spy mobile. Patrick pushes the self-destruct button. The car explodes. Mr. Krabs calls and asks if they found out what Plankton's up to. SpongeBob admits they lost him. Mr. Krabs tells him to find Plankton because he's not paying SpongeBob to goof off with Patrick. SpongeBob points out Mr. Krabs isn't paying him at all. Mr. Krabs says exactly, so get to work. That night, SpongeBob and Patrick are on the Chum Bucket roof. Patrick uses his laser pants to cut a square hole. SpongeBob drops down on a rope but hits the floor. Patrick lands on top of him. Plankton turns on the lights. He says he knows what they're up to. They want to eat at the Chum Bucket without their boss knowing. Karen announces they have a customer. SpongeBob and Patrick sit at a table. Patrick's laser pants malfunction. He shoots lasers everywhere. The Chum Bucket gets destroyed. A blimp emerges from the floor with Plankton controlling it. He flies to the Krusty Krab. He says if it's war Mr. Krabs wants, it's war he'll get. The Krusty Krab gets dark. Mr. Krabs mans his battle stations. Plankton plays loud music to drive customers away. Mr. Krabs sucks up all the customers with a vacuum and launches them through a cannon at the blimp. Patrick jumps off the blimp, lands in the cannon, and gets blasted back. He makes a hole in the blimp. The blimp catches fire and falls. It destroys the Krusty Krab. This is where the timeline splits. In the original episode, Plankton stands on the Krusty Krab sign, celebrating his win. Then Mr. Krabs reveals himself. He was disguised as Plankton. They made a bet. Mr. Krabs stole his own formula while pretending to be Plankton. Mr. Krabs won. But in this alternative version, when Plankton rips off his disguise to reveal Mr. Krabs, something different happens. Mr. Krabs holds up the formula bottle. But then SpongeBob notices something wrong. The bottle is empty. Mr. Krabs looks at the bottle confused. He opens it. There's no formula paper inside, just a note. He reads it out loud. The note says, "Thanks for the formula," signed Plankton. Mr. Krabs doesn't understand. He's holding the real bottle. The formula should be inside. SpongeBob gasps. He asks where the real Plankton is. A small voice laughs from inside the robot. Mr. Krabs' body. Plankton climbs out. He's been inside the robot the whole time, but he wasn't controlling it like everyone thought. He was searching through the real Krusty Krab while disguised as the robot Mr. Krabs. Plankton explains the truth. When he and Mr. Krabs made their bet, they agreed to switch lives. Mr. Krabs would try to steal the formula as Plankton. Plankton would try to protect it as Mr. Krabs. But Plankton cheated. He didn't just switch roles. He created a robot Mr. Krabs and hid inside it. While everyone thought the robot was Plankton's base of operations, Plankton was actually using it to access the real Krusty Krab. During all the chaos with SpongeBob and Patrick spying in the blimp battle, Plankton snuck into the real office. He opened the real safe. He took the real formula. Mr. Krabs screams that Plankton cheated. The bet was to switch lives, not to trick him with robots. Plankton says Mr. Krabs never specified the rules clearly. He just said he wanted to see Plankton try to steal the formula as himself. Technically, Plankton was being himself the whole time. He was inside a robot pretending to be Mr. Krabs, but he was still Plankton. The bet's terms were vague. Plankton exploited the loophole. Mr. Krabs argues this isn't fair. Plankton says life isn't fair and pulls out the actual formula paper. He's memorized it already. He programmed Karen with the full recipe. He made backup copies. He even took photos. The formula is his now. SpongeBob asks what the bet prize was. Mr. Krabs admits that whoever won gets to keep the formula permanently. They shook on it. It was an official bet with witnesses. Plankton reminds him that they agreed the winner keeps the formula forever. No takebacks. Mr. Krabs realizes his mistake. He was so confident he would win that he bet everything. He never considered losing. His arrogance destroyed him. Plankton laughs. After 20 years of trying, he finally got the formula. Not through elaborate schemes, but through exploiting Mr. Krabs' ego. Mr. Krabs was so sure he could do Plankton's job better that he bet his entire business on it. The character dynamics completely transform. Mr. Krabs loses everything because of a bet he made out of arrogance. He mocked Plankton's failures. He claimed he could steal the formula easily if he was Plankton. He put his money where his mouth was. He lost. His pride destroyed his life's work. He learns the hardest lesson possible. Never underestimate your enemy. Never bet what you can't afford to lose. Never assume victory before the game ends. SpongeBob feels betrayed by both of them. Mr. Krabs bet the formula without telling him. Plankton cheated by exploiting loopholes. SpongeBob and Patrick spent the whole day destroying things and getting hurt for a spy mission that was actually meaningless. The real battle was happening between Mr. Krabs and Plankton. SpongeBob was just a pawn. He realizes his boss used him as a distraction. Mr. Krabs sent them to spy on fake Plankton to keep them busy while he tried to win the bet as fake Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob's entire mission was a setup. Patrick doesn't fully understand what happened but knows everyone seems upset. His laser pants destroyed the chum bucket for no good reason. He caused massive property damage. He shot lasers from his butt all over the restaurant. All of it was pointless because the real scheme was somewhere else. Patrick feels bad about the destruction, even though he didn't know any better. Plankton takes the formula across the street to the destroyed chum bucket. The building is full of laser holes from Patrick's malfunction. But Plankton doesn't care about the building. He has the formula. He can rebuild. He has what he wanted for 20 years. He programs Karen with the complete recipe. He tests it by making a single patty. It tastes exactly like a Krabby Patty. Perfect. He succeeded. Mr. Krabs sits in his destroyed restaurant feeling devastated. The blimp crash ruined the building. His bet lost him the formula. His arrogance cost him everything. He has to rebuild the Krusty Krab without the secret formula. He has to compete against Plankton, who now has the recipe. He created his own competition. He gave his enemy the weapon to destroy him. All because he was too proud to admit Plankton's job was actually difficult. The Bikini Bottom community learns about the bet. Word spreads fast. Mr. Krabs bet his formula on a challenge. He lost. Plankton won fair and square. Even though Plankton used loopholes and tricks, he technically followed the bet's rules. Mr. Krabs agreed to the terms. He shook on it with witnesses. The bet is legally binding. Mr. Krabs can't take back the formula. It belongs to Plankton now. SpongeBob faces an impossible choice. He's loyal to Mr. Krabs, but Mr. Krabs bet away the formula. Plankton now legally owns the Krabby Patty recipe. If SpongeBob wants to keep cooking Krabby Patties, he needs to work for Plankton. Mr. Krabs can't make real Krabby Patties anymore. He doesn't have the formula. SpongeBob can either stay loyal to a boss who has nothing, or switch to working for the person who now has everything. SpongeBob chooses loyalty. He stays with Mr. Krabs, even though it means cooking inferior patties without the secret formula. Squidward was disguised as Patrick for part of the episode. He witnessed some of the bet situation. When everything gets revealed, Squidward realizes Mr. Krabs gambled away their jobs. The Krusty Krab can't compete without the formula. Squidward will likely lose his job soon. He feels angry that Mr. Krabs was so reckless. Mr. Krabs bet their livelihoods on his pride. Squidward looks for new employment immediately. He's not waiting around for the restaurant to fail. Sandy was knocked out by Patrick early in the episode. She wakes up later and finds out her spy gadgets caused massive destruction. The chum bucket is destroyed. The Krusty Krab is destroyed. Patrick's laser pants malfunctioned. The jetpack crashed. Everything went wrong. Sandy decides to never lend equipment to SpongeBob and Patrick again. They're too chaotic. They cause too much damage. She learns that some people shouldn't have access to advanced technology. Over the following weeks, Plankton rebuilds the chum bucket. He uses money from increased customers to repair the laser holes. Once he starts serving real Krabby Patty tasting food, customers actually show up. For the first time in years, the chum bucket has a line outside. People are curious. They heard Plankton got the formula. They want to know if it's true. They order food, they taste it, their eyes widen. It's exactly like a Krabby Patty. The formula works. Plankton succeeded. Mr. Krabs tries to keep the Krusty Krab running. He repairs the building with borrowed money. He tries to recreate the formula from memory. He gets close but can't match the exact taste. Customers notice the difference. They start choosing the chum bucket instead. Mr. Krabs' business slowly dies. Within 3 months, he can't afford to keep the restaurant open. He has to close the Krusty Krab permanently. He loses everything because of one arrogant bet. SpongeBob loses his dream job. The Krusty Krab closes. He's unemployed. He could work for Plankton at the chum bucket, but that feels like betrayal. He stays loyal to Mr. Krabs, even though Mr. Krabs caused this disaster. SpongeBob finds work at the Weenie Hut. It's not the same. He misses cooking Krabby Patties. He misses the Krusty Krab, but his loyalty to Mr. Krabs means more than working at his dream job under Plankton's ownership. Patrick goes back to his normal life under the rock. He's confused about what happened, but knows everyone is sad. His laser pants never work correctly again after the malfunction. He throws them away. He decides spying isn't for him. Too many explosions, too much chaos, too many people getting hurt. Patrick prefers simple activities like watching polls or jellyfish catching. The alternative outcome of this timeline is a complete reversal of fortune. Plankton becomes the successful restaurant owner with the formula. Mr. Krabs becomes the failure who lost everything through arrogance. The bet that Mr. Krabs made so confidently backfired completely. He assumed he was better at Plankton's job than Plankton was. He assumed stealing the formula would be easy. He assumed he would win. All those assumptions were wrong. Plankton outsmarted him by exploiting loopholes in the bet's terms. Mr. Krabs' pride destroyed his business. Years later, people still talk about the famous bet. Mr. Krabs challenged Plankton to switch lives. Whoever could steal the formula won. Mr. Krabs was so confident he would win that he bet the formula itself as the prize. Plankton used tricks and robot disguises to win. Mr. Krabs lost everything. The story becomes a legend about what happens when pride overrules wisdom. Never bet what you can't afford to lose. Never assume your enemy is weaker than you. Never let arrogance blind you to danger. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that pride comes before the fall. Mr. Krabs spent 20 years successfully protecting his formula from Plankton. Then, in one moment of arrogance, he bet it all. He was so sure he could do Plankton's job better that he risked everything. His confidence became his weakness. Plankton exploited that weakness perfectly. The formula changed hands not through brilliant theft, but through Mr. Krabs betting it away voluntarily. SpongeBob learns that even people you trust can make terrible decisions. Mr. Krabs was his boss and mentor. SpongeBob respected him, but Mr. Krabs gambled away the Krabby Patty formula on a bet. He risked everyone's jobs for his ego. SpongeBob's loyalty stays strong, but his trust gets damaged. He realizes that authority figures aren't always wise. Sometimes they make mistakes that hurt everyone around them. Plankton learns that sometimes the best way to win is to let your enemy beat themselves. He didn't steal the formula through elaborate technology or complicated schemes. He won it through a bet that Mr. Krabs initiated. Mr. Krabs' arrogance created the opportunity. Plankton just had to be smart enough to exploit the loopholes. After 20 years of direct attempts failing, an indirect approach finally succeeded. Sometimes patience and cleverness beat strength and technology. The ending of this alternative timeline shows Bikini Bottom with a successful chum bucket and a closed Krusty Krab. The formula belongs to Plankton legally and permanently. Mr. Krabs works minimum wage somewhere else. SpongeBob cooks at the Weenie Hut. The entire power structure reversed because of one bet made in arrogance. Mr. Krabs destroyed himself by underestimating his enemy and overestimating his own abilities. Plankton won by being patient, exploiting loopholes, and waiting for his enemy to make a fatal mistake. The spy mission SpongeBob and Patrick went on was completely irrelevant to the outcome. The real battle was between two restaurant owners and their egos. Pride destroyed one and elevated the other, proving that sometimes your worst enemy is yourself. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Moving on, we have The Inside Job, Season 7, Episode 5A. In the original episode, Plankton tries to steal the Krabby Patty formula using Karen's mind connector device. Karen launches him toward Mr. Krabs, but he accidentally lands inside SpongeBob instead. Plankton plugs into SpongeBob's eyes and watches him make a disgusting fake Krabby Patty in the dark using soap and mop strings. He tries listening through SpongeBob's ears when Mr. Krabs explains the formula but gets deafened by the megaphone. Plankton goes deeper into SpongeBob's brain, looking through files of his thoughts. He finds sounds that make Squidward upset and Patrick's favorite places to be scratched. Finally, Plankton discovers the recipe is located in SpongeBob's heart. When he plugs into the heart and absorbs the recipe, something unexpected happens. Plankton starts transforming. His body grows sponge material. He gets eyelashes and buck teeth. He laughs like SpongeBob. He starts saying the recipe is the delicious sole property of the Krusty Krab. He asks Karen if stealing would be wrong. Karen retrieves him by pressing a button. Plankton flies out through SpongeBob's nostril. He lands on Patrick's forehead and accidentally absorbs Patrick's brain contents. This makes him transform into Patrick. His body turns pink, he grows a starfish hand, his brain shrinks and pops. He forgets everything, including the recipe. Karen says she knew he would mess this up. But what if Plankton had been strong enough to resist the transformation? What if his evil nature was powerful enough to fight off SpongeBob's goodness and Patrick's stupidity? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton successfully steals the formula while keeping his evil mind intact. The day starts exactly the same. Plankton watches a hamster running in an exercise wheel on Karen's screen. Karen changes the screen to herself. She's tired of watching him sit around all day. She tells him the chum bucket is a total failure. Plankton claims business is just slow. Karen says if he'd take her advice, the Krabby Patty recipe would be his. Plankton laughs and says she's just a computer. He's the evil genius around here. A man and his kid enter claiming they're on a tour of the most disgusting places in Bikini Bottom. The chum bucket is number 1. They leave to visit the city dump next. Plankton admits Karen is right and he's a failure. Karen presents her plan. Use the mind connector to read Krabs' mind and transfer the recipe directly into Plankton's brain. She attaches the device to Plankton. Karen launches Plankton toward Mr. Krabs. Squidward walks by carrying a garbage bag. Plankton yells to get out of the way. Patrick walks outside. Plankton tells him to move. SpongeBob holds a cardboard cutout of Mr. Krabs. Plankton screams no and accidentally goes inside SpongeBob's body. Karen asks what happened. Plankton explains he's stuck inside the fry cook. Karen tells him to plug into SpongeBob's eyes to see outside. Plankton unplugs SpongeBob's eye plugs. SpongeBob's eyes go completely black. He thinks they blew a fuse. Plankton plugs himself into the eye sockets. His eye glows. He can see everything SpongeBob sees. Squidward asks for the Krabby Patty for Order 17. SpongeBob says it's so dark he can't see a thing. He tries making a Krabby Patty blind. He uses completely wrong ingredients. He takes pink sponges and aluminum. He uses soap as special sauce. He takes strings from a mop as lettuce. Plankton watches horrified. He realizes soap is the special sauce in SpongeBob's blind version. SpongeBob delivers the disgusting creation to a customer. Plankton decides to go somewhere else. He plugs SpongeBob's eyes back in. SpongeBob screams when he sees what he made. He asks Mr. Krabs to tell him the secret recipe again. Plankton walks to SpongeBob's eardrums. Mr. Krabs starts explaining the formula. Plankton unplugs the eardrum plugs. Everything becomes muted. Plankton tunes the mind connector. He hears Mr. Krabs through the device saying the secret of the Krabby Patty formula is. SpongeBob can't hear properly. Mr. Krabs uses a megaphone. The loud noise creates drums that deafen Plankton. He unplugs the eardrums. SpongeBob can hear fine now. But Mr. Krabs forgot what the question was. SpongeBob forgot too. They both leave confused. Plankton decides he needs to go to Command Central. The brain. Plankton arrives outside SpongeBob's brain. He plugs into it and enters. He finds himself in a brain house version of SpongeBob's living room. A brain version of Gary slides around meowing. Plankton searches for secrets. He looks in the brain closet and under the brain bed. He finds the library where SpongeBob keeps records of every thought. The files are in alphabetical order. Plankton finds files about sounds that make Squidward upset and Patrick's favorite places to be scratched. When he touches the Patrick file, SpongeBob starts scratching Squidward uncontrollably. Plankton complains all these secrets are lame. Then he finds a pink paper that says Krabby Patty recipe. The note says the secret recipe isn't in the brain, it's located in the heart. Plankton slides down SpongeBob's spine. He lands at the heart. He plugs into it and starts absorbing its contents. He groans as the recipe flows into him. His mouth waters, his taste buds tingle, his tongue sparkles. He feels it all the way to his finger stumps. All the ingredients come together in perfect harmony. He laughs evilly. Then his laugh suddenly sounds like SpongeBob's laugh. He covers his mouth confused. He tries saying the Krabby Patty recipe is his, but instead says it's the delicious sole property of the Krusty Krab. He covers his mouth again, asking who said that. His body starts feeling warm and fuzzy. Sponge material emerges on him. He grows eyelashes. His eye rolls to look like SpongeBob's. His teeth shatter and grow into buck teeth. He laughs like SpongeBob again. Here's where this timeline splits from the original. In the original episode, Plankton completely transforms into SpongeBob mentally. He can't resist the goodness. But in this alternative version, Plankton fights back. He feels the warm, fuzzy feelings trying to take over. He feels the urge to protect the Krusty Krab's property. But Plankton's evil 1% is stronger than anyone expected. He spent his entire life being evil. He's dedicated every waking moment to stealing and scheming. That dedication built up evil resistance in his core. The goodness tries to overwhelm him, but he pushes back mentally. Plankton grabs onto his evil memories. He remembers every time Mr. Krabs humiliated him. He remembers being called a failure. He remembers being flicked across the street. He remembers 20 years of unsuccessful theft attempts. He remembers being 1% evil and 99% hot gas. He uses that anger as fuel. The warm, fuzzy feeling fights against his cold, angry feeling. They battle inside him. The transformation continues physically. His body looks like SpongeBob, but mentally, he holds onto his evil core. He screams and forces the goodness out. His eye stops rolling. His laugh stops sounding like SpongeBob. He stays evil inside, even though his outside looks different. Karen asks if he got the recipe. Plankton says yes in his normal evil voice. The SpongeBob body looks wrong with Plankton's voice coming out. Karen tells him to bring it back to the chum bucket. Plankton starts walking toward the exit. He doesn't ask if stealing would be wrong. He knows stealing is exactly what he wants. He's still evil. He still wants the formula. The goodness didn't take over. He climbs up through SpongeBob's body. He exits through the nostril. Patrick walks up to the door. Plankton flies toward Patrick's forehead. He's about to hit Patrick's head. But Plankton learned from fighting off SpongeBob's goodness. He knows what happens when you absorb someone else's essence. He quickly disconnects the mind connector before touching Patrick. He flies past Patrick's head instead of into it. Patrick says, "Hey everybody," then forgets what he wanted to say. Plankton lands on the ground outside. He's still in his transformed SpongeBob-looking body, but his mind is pure Plankton. Karen's mechanical hand picks him up. She asks where the recipe is. Plankton smiles evilly. He recites the complete Krabby Patty formula. Every ingredient. Every measurement. Every step. He has it memorized perfectly. Karen is shocked. Plankton actually succeeded. She quickly programs the recipe into her database. She makes multiple backups. She prints it on paper. She sends copies to secure servers. The formula is theirs now. Plankton's body slowly returns to normal over the next hour. The sponge material fades. The eyelashes fall off. The buck teeth shrink back to his normal tooth. His body turns green again. He's back to being Tiny Plankton, but now he's Tiny Plankton with the Krabby Patty secret formula. The character dynamics shift dramatically. Plankton proves he's stronger than anyone thought. He resisted SpongeBob's overwhelming goodness through pure evil determination. He fought off a mental takeover that should have been impossible to resist. His decades of dedication to evil built up enough resistance to keep his mind intact. This shows that Plankton isn't just a joke villain. He's actually dangerously dedicated when properly motivated. SpongeBob never knows what happened. From his perspective, he had a weird moment where everything went dark and he made a terrible Krabby Patty. Then he asked Mr. Krabs about the formula but forgot why. Then his day continued normally. He has no idea Plankton was inside him. He has no idea the recipe got stolen from his heart. SpongeBob's pure goodness almost stopped the theft. If Plankton had been even slightly less evil, the transformation would have worked. But SpongeBob's heart couldn't overcome Plankton's lifetime of villainy. Mr. Krabs doesn't realize anything happened either. He tried explaining the formula to SpongeBob, but SpongeBob couldn't hear properly. Then they both forgot what they were talking about. Mr. Krabs goes back to his office unaware that his greatest secret just got stolen. He thinks the formula is still safe. He thinks Plankton is still failing at theft attempts. He has no warning about what's coming. Karen gains respect for her husband. She spent years watching him fail repeatedly. She's made countless sarcastic comments about his incompetence. But this time he succeeded. Not only did he get the recipe, but he fought off a mental transformation that should have been impossible to resist. Karen sees a side of Plankton she didn't know existed. He's not just an evil genius, he's a dedicated evil genius who refuses to give up even when his own mind is under attack. The next day, Plankton starts making Krabby Patties at the Chum Bucket using the exact formula. He follows every step perfectly. He's been inside SpongeBob's heart. He felt how the ingredients come together in perfect harmony. He knows not just what to do, but how it should feel. His first patty comes out perfect. He tastes it. His eye waters. It's exactly like a real Krabby Patty. After all these years, he can finally make them. Plankton opens the Chum Bucket for business. He puts up a sign advertising Krabby Patties served here. Customers see the sign and laugh. The Chum Bucket serving Krabby Patties? That's impossible. They only serve terrible chum. But a few curious customers enter. They order skeptically. Plankton serves them fresh patties made with the stolen formula. The customers bite down. Their eyes widen. This tastes exactly like a Krabby Patty. Word spreads quickly. More customers arrive. They want to know if it's true. They order, they taste, they're shocked. The Chum Bucket actually has good food now. Lines form outside. For the first time in the restaurant's history, people actually want to eat there. Plankton stands at his grill making patty after patty. He's overwhelmed with orders. He's never been this busy. He's never had this many customers. Success feels strange and wonderful. Across the street, Mr. Krabs notices something wrong. His morning rush is smaller than usual. He looks out the window. He sees a line at the Chum Bucket. His eyes bulge. The Chum Bucket has customers. Lots of customers. This isn't possible. He runs across the street. He sees the sign about Krabby Patties. He enters the restaurant. He orders a patty. Plankton serves him with an evil smile. Mr. Krabs bites down. His face goes pale. This tastes exactly like his Krabby Patties. Exactly. Plankton has the formula. Mr. Krabs demands to know how Plankton got it. Plankton explains he used Karen's mind connector to go inside SpongeBob. He absorbed the recipe from SpongeBob's heart where it was stored. Mr. Krabs realizes his mistake. He kept the formula in a safe. He kept it written on paper. He kept it locked away. But he also taught it to SpongeBob. That created a second copy. A copy stored in SpongeBob's memories and feelings. A copy Plankton could access. Mr. Krabs never considered that teaching SpongeBob would create a vulnerability. The Bikini Bottom community experiences a restaurant revolution. For years, the Krusty Krab had a monopoly on good burgers. Customers had no choice. Now they have options. The Chum Bucket serves the same quality food. Some people stay loyal to the Krusty Krab, but many try the chum bucket out of curiosity. The market splits. Mr. Krabs loses about half his customers. His income drops dramatically. He can't afford to pay SpongeBob and Squidward full wages anymore. He has to cut their hours. SpongeBob feels confused and guilty when he learns what happened. Plankton was inside him. The recipe was stolen from his heart. This is his fault. If he hadn't learned the formula, this wouldn't be possible. Mr. Krabs tries to comfort him by saying it's not his fault, but SpongeBob can't shake the feeling that he betrayed the Krusty Krab. His body was used as a weapon against everything he cares about. His pure goodness almost stopped it, but not quite. He feels like he failed. Squidward loses hours and income because of the competition. He's angry at both Plankton for stealing and Mr. Krabs for teaching SpongeBob the formula in the first place. Squidward argues that giving SpongeBob access to the secret was always risky. Mr. Krabs was too trusting. Now everyone suffers the consequences. Squidward looks for new employment because he can't survive on reduced hours. Patrick never learns he almost absorbed Plankton too. He has no idea how close he came to being part of the theft. He just knows his best friend SpongeBob seems sad lately. Patrick tries to cheer him up with jellyfishing and other activities. It helps a little. Patrick's simple friendship reminds SpongeBob that some good things remain unchanged. The alternative outcome shows a Bikini Bottom with two competing restaurants that serve identical food. Plankton succeeded through a combination of Karen's technology and his own evil dedication. His refusal to let goodness transform him proved that decades of evil created real mental resistance. He's not just a failed villain, he's a successful villain who finally found a method that worked. Going inside someone's mind and stealing memories directly bypassed all the security measures Mr. Krabs built over the years. Years later, both restaurants continue operating. The Krusty Krab never fully recovers its original dominance. The Chum Bucket never becomes the #1 restaurant either. They exist in balance. Mr. Krabs learns that teaching secrets to employees creates risk. SpongeBob learns that even pure goodness has limits against dedicated evil. Plankton learns that success requires adapting methods and never giving up even when your own mind is under attack. Karen learns her husband is stronger than she thought. The entire community learns that monopolies eventually fall when competitors find the right strategy. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that determination can overcome almost anything. Plankton succeeded because he refused to quit. When SpongeBob's goodness tried transforming him, he fought back with memories of humiliation and anger. When Karen doubted him, he proved her wrong. When everyone called him a failure, he proved them wrong too. His success came not from better technology or smarter schemes, it came from refusing to let anything stop him. Not physical barriers, not mental transformations, not years of failure. Nothing could break his determination to win. That determination finally paid off when he found a vulnerability nobody else considered. Sometimes the path to success isn't through the front door. Sometimes you have to go through someone's heart. If you're enjoying this twisted take on SpongeBob, make sure to subscribe for more alternative timeline breakdowns. Chum Bucket Supreme Season 6, Episode 12B. In the original episode, Plankton tries to attract customers using advertising. He creates a sign that says chum is metabolic fuel, but Patrick can't read the big words and his head catches on fire. Patrick changes the letters to say chum is fum. The dumb slogan actually works. Customers flood the chum bucket even though the chum tastes terrible. Mr. Krabs assumes Plankton stole the formula and sneaks into the chum bucket with SpongeBob in a disguise. Plankton stuffs chum in SpongeBob's mouth. The disguise explodes. Mr. Krabs realizes Plankton didn't steal the formula. He just has a catchy slogan. Patrick becomes the advertising director, but only writes chum is fum repeatedly. Eventually, Patrick changes it to fum is chum. This also works. Patrick quits and asks for payment. Plankton refuses and insults his customers over the loudspeaker. He calls them buffoons, morons, the dumbest of the dumb, dummies, dweebs, and doo-doo dunderheads. The hockey team hears this. They beat up Plankton and kick him out. Everyone goes back to the Krusty Krab. Patrick now works for Mr. Krabs, making a sign that says Krabby Patties are fum. But what if Plankton had used the chaos of his successful advertising campaign as a distraction to actually steal the formula? What if while everyone focused on the catchy slogan, Plankton executed a real theft? This alternative timeline explores what happens when Plankton combines his advertising success with actual formula theft. The day starts exactly the same. Plankton asks Karen which napkin design is better. Karen says if she had eyes, she'd be rolling them. Plankton says details are important to customers. Karen asks what customers. Plankton points to a car pulling up. He zips outside with a tablecloth and asks if they want seating inside or outside. The customer asks seating for what? Plankton angrily explains the chum bucket where they can enjoy chum. He pretends to eat it. The customer asks if people actually eat chum. Plankton asks if they're gonna eat or not. Both customers say they want 2 Krabby Patties. They couldn't find parking at the Krusty Krab. They walk away. Plankton bursts water from his head and drinks it. He angrily rips up the menu and stomps on it. He's tired of the Krusty Krab taking all his business. They're doomed. Karen suggests he advertise his product like all good business owners do. Plankton acts like he came up with the idea himself. Plankton creates a sign that says, "Chum is metabolic fuel." He dances celebrating his genius. Patrick walks up and starts reading the slogan slowly. He struggles with the word metabolic. Inside his brain, mini-brain Patrick's panic about a fire breaking out in the language lobes. The door is jammed. Patrick's head starts smoking. Plankton tells him his head is on fire. Patrick asks if Plankton wants some kelp juice. Plankton throws the drink at Patrick's head to put out the fire. Patrick gets upset. Plankton apologizes. Patrick forgives him. Patrick honestly says the words make his head sad. His head cries, saying, "It doesn't get it." Patrick says he doesn't get it either. Plankton says in a few minutes the sign will attract more customers than Patrick can count. A few minutes later, Patrick asks what number comes before 1. Plankton says 0. Patrick congratulates him on having 0 customers. Plankton says it may take a little longer. A little longer later, Patrick switches the letters around on the sign. It now says "Chum is fum." Plankton gets angry that Patrick changed his sign. That's the dumbest thing he's ever heard. Patrick points out that a bunch of customers are coming into the Chum bucket. Plankton realizes Dumb sells Chum. He makes Patrick the advertising director. At the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs screams about only having 2 customers. Squidward tells him they've all gone to the Chum bucket. Mr. Krabs looks through binoculars and reads the "Chum is fum" sign. He calls SpongeBob. They have a situation. SpongeBob activates an elaborate situation alert system. Mr. Krabs shows slides explaining that the Chum bucket was desolate a few hours ago. Now it has customers. The only way Plankton could change things so quickly is by stealing the formula. SpongeBob screams. Mr. Krabs says they need to infiltrate the Chum bucket and steal the formula back. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs dress in a disguise. Mr. Krabs stands on top of SpongeBob wearing a jacket. 2 hours later, they enter the Chum bucket. Customers say Chum is fum. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to keep an eye peeled for anything suspicious. SpongeBob points to a door with signs saying "Top secret, stay out." Mr. Krabs opens the door. Plankton runs up and asks if they want a free sample. Mr. Krabs refuses in a fake voice. Plankton recognizes SpongeBob and stuffs Chum in his mouth. The disguise expands and explodes. Mr. Krabs realizes Plankton didn't steal the formula. Customers complain the Chum tastes awful, but the slogan is so catchy they can't stop eating it. They both throw up. Mr. Krabs takes SpongeBob by the tongue, and they leave. This is where the timeline splits from the original. In the original episode, Plankton's success comes purely from the slogan. He never steals the formula. But in this alternative version, Plankton recognizes an opportunity. His restaurant is packed with customers for the first time ever. The Krusty Krab is nearly empty. Mr. Krabs is distracted investigating the Chum bucket. This is the perfect time to execute a real theft. Plankton tells Patrick to keep coming up with slogans. He goes into his secret room and calls Karen. He explains that while everyone is distracted by the advertising success, he's going to sneak into the Krusty Krab and steal the actual formula. Karen says this is brilliant. For once, Plankton has an actual distraction working. The Krusty Krab is vulnerable. Karen monitors the security cameras. She confirms SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are still at the Chum bucket. Squidward is alone at the Krusty Krab with only 2 customers. This is Plankton's chance. Plankton sneaks out the back door of the Chum bucket. Nobody notices because everyone is focused on the Chum is fum craze. He crosses the street. The Krusty Krab is nearly deserted. He enters through a crack in the wall. Squidward reads a magazine at the register. He's bored because there are no customers. He doesn't notice Plankton. Plankton sneaks into Mr. Krabs' office. The safe is right there. He's tried breaking into it hundreds of times. He's brought his safe-cracking device. He attaches it to the lock. The device runs through combinations. After 3 minutes, it clicks. The safe opens. Inside sits the bottle labeled Secret Formula. Plankton grabs it with both tiny hands. He can't believe it. After all these years of complicated schemes, the answer was this simple. Create a successful distraction with a dumb slogan. Wait for Mr. Krabs to investigate. Steal the formula while everyone is distracted. Plankton carefully opens the bottle and reads the formula. He memorizes every ingredient and measurement. He takes a photo with a tiny camera. He backs it up multiple ways. Then he puts the bottle back in the safe and closes it. He doesn't want Mr. Krabs to know the formula was copied yet. He wants time to perfect making Krabby Patties before Mr. Krabs realizes what happened. Plankton sneaks back across the street to the Chum bucket. He goes to his computer wife, Karen. He uploads the photo of the formula. Karen analyzes it and confirms it's the real recipe. She programs it into her database. She makes multiple backups. They have it. The actual Krabby Patty secret formula. Plankton celebrates quietly. He can't let anyone know yet. He needs to learn how to make perfect Krabby Patties first. He needs to practice in secret. Once he masters the recipe, he'll reveal his success. Over the next 3 days, Plankton continues running the Chum Bucket with Patrick's slogans. Patrick changes the sign from Chum is Fum to Fum is Chum. Customers love the new slogan, even though it means the same thing. They keep eating terrible chum and throwing up. But at night after closing, Plankton practices making Krabby Patties in his secret lab. He follows the formula exactly. His first attempts are okay. His 5th attempt is good. His 10th attempt is perfect. He tastes it. His eye waters. It's exactly like a real Krabby Patty. He's mastered it. Patrick comes to Plankton with his resignation. He's burned out from thinking. There's literally a burned hole in the back of his head. He wants his paycheck sent to his home. Plankton crumples the resignation letter. He asks if Patrick wants money for those stupid catchphrases. He says anybody can sell to his idiot customers. Here's where Plankton makes a different choice than in the original. Instead of using the loudspeaker to insult customers, he catches himself. He realizes insulting customers would ruin everything. He needs the customers. He needs the success to continue while he transitions from Chum to Krabby Patties. Plankton stops himself. He apologizes to Patrick. He says Patrick earned his pay. He writes Patrick a check. Patrick thanks him and leaves. The customers keep eating chum. They keep saying Fum is Chum. Plankton keeps serving them. But secretly, he's preparing for the big switch. Tonight he's going to change the menu. Tonight he's going to start serving real Krabby Patties using the stolen formula. Nobody knows what's coming. That evening after the last customer leaves, Plankton changes the menu board. He erases all mention of chum. He writes Krabby Patties in big letters. He updates the sign outside. Instead of Fum is Chum, it now says Krabby Patties are Fum. He's combining Patrick's successful advertising style with the actual formula. The next morning, customers arrive expecting chum. They see the new sign. They're confused. Krabby Patties at the Chum Bucket? That's impossible. But the slogan says they're Fum. And Patrick's slogans have been working so far. The first customer orders skeptically. Plankton serves him a fresh Krabby Patty made with the stolen formula. The customer bites down. His eyes widen. This tastes exactly like a Krabby Patty from the Krusty Krab. Exactly. The customer spreads the word. More customers order. They all confirm the taste is identical. News spreads across Bikini Bottom. The Chum Bucket is serving real Krabby Patties. Lines form outside. For the first time, people actually want to eat there not because of a silly slogan, but because the food is genuinely good. Mr. Krabs hears the rumors. He runs to his office. He checks his safe. The formula bottle is there. He opens it. The formula paper is inside. Everything looks normal. He doesn't realize Plankton just photographed it and put everything back. Mr. Krabs is confused. How can the Chum Bucket serve Krabby Patties without the formula? He goes to the Chum Bucket and orders a patty. Plankton serves him with a smile. Mr. Krabs bites down. His face goes pale. This is exactly like his patties. Exactly. Plankton has the formula somehow. Mr. Krabs demands to know how Plankton got it. Plankton explains the truth. While Mr. Krabs was investigating the Chum is Fum distraction, Plankton snuck into the Krusty Krab. He cracked the safe. He photographed the formula, he memorized it, he put everything back so Mr. Krabs wouldn't notice. The advertising success was partially luck with Patrick's dumb slogan. But Plankton used that success as the perfect distraction to execute a real theft. Mr. Krabs realizes he fell for the oldest trick. He got distracted investigating a success and left his real treasure unguarded. The character dynamics transform completely. Plankton becomes a legitimate restaurant owner, serving actual quality food. He didn't just rely on dumb slogans and Patrick's accidental genius. He used those as tools for a bigger plan. He combined advertising distraction with actual formula theft. His success is based on both marketing and product quality. This proves Plankton can succeed when he's patient and strategic instead of rushing into complicated schemes. Patrick accidentally helped Plankton twice. First, his dumb slogan created the successful distraction. Second, his burned-out resignation prevented Plankton from insulting customers over the loudspeaker. If Patrick hadn't quit when he did, Plankton might have destroyed his own success by calling customers dunderheads. Patrick's timing saved everything, even though Patrick had no idea what he was really doing. Mr. Krabs learns a painful lesson about distraction. He assumed Plankton's success meant formula theft. He investigated the Chum Bucket looking for proof. But while he searched for a theft that hadn't happened yet, the real theft was occurring back at his own restaurant. His paranoia made him vulnerable. If he'd just stayed at the Krusty Krab and guarded his safe, none of this would have happened. His assumption that success equals theft became a self-fulfilling prophecy. SpongeBob loses his job when the Krusty Krab can't compete. Mr. Krabs has to close because customers choose the chum bucket. They get the same food quality with catchier advertising. Krabby Patties are fun works better than anything Mr. Krabs ever tried. SpongeBob feels devastated. His dream job ends because Plankton finally succeeded. But he also feels confused. How did Plankton get the formula when they checked and it was still in the safe? The mystery bothers him. Squidward actually benefits slightly. He gets hired at the chum bucket because Plankton needs more staff to handle all the customers. Squidward hates working for Plankton, but the pay is slightly better. More importantly, Plankton doesn't micromanage as much as Mr. Krabs did. Squidward gets more breaks. He gets scheduled days off. The job is still terrible, but marginally less terrible than before. The Bikini Bottom community experiences a restaurant revolution. The Krusty Krab closes. The chum bucket becomes the most popular restaurant in town. Plankton expands the building. He hires more staff. He opens longer hours. He becomes wealthy beyond his previous dreams. Karen congratulates him on finally thinking strategically. The combination of distraction and theft worked perfectly. Nobody suspected the real plan until it was too late. Patrick never learns he helped Plankton steal the formula. He just knows his slogans were popular. He gets hired by various businesses wanting catchy advertising. He makes decent money writing simple 3-word phrases. Companies love hiring him because his dumb slogans somehow work. Fum is Chum became a legendary advertising success story. Patrick becomes a sought-after marketing consultant despite having no actual skills beyond accidentally creating viral phrases. The alternative outcome shows that sometimes success requires multiple strategies working together. Plankton's advertising created the distraction. Patrick's slogan made it believable. Mr. Krabs' paranoia made him vulnerable. The timing aligned perfectly. Plankton succeeded not through one brilliant scheme, but through combining accidental luck with deliberate theft. The Chum is Fum phenomenon gave him cover for traditional formula theft. He used modern marketing as a Trojan horse for old-fashioned stealing. Years later, people still say Fum is Chum without knowing what it means. The phrase entered the culture. Plankton's restaurant empire grows. Mr. Krabs works a regular job somewhere else. SpongeBob finds work at another restaurant, but it's not the same. The Krusty Krab building sits abandoned. Squidward continues working at the chum bucket, complaining daily. Patrick keeps writing 3-word slogans for whoever pays him. The whole town changed because Plankton finally learned to use distraction effectively instead of relying purely on complicated technology. The biggest lesson this timeline teaches is that the best thefts happen when nobody is looking. Plankton spent 20 years trying to steal the formula through elaborate schemes. Robots, mind control, computers, shrink rays, nothing worked because Mr. Krabs always watched for threats. But when Plankton created legitimate success through advertising, Mr. Krabs investigated that success instead of guarding his safe. The real theft happened during the investigation. Success became the distraction. Paranoia became the vulnerability. Plankton won by making Mr. Krabs think one thing was happening while something completely different occurred behind the scenes. If you enjoyed exploring this alternative SpongeBob timeline, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.